Hello and welcome to yet another video. This is the 5th episode of the series in which Naruto confronts the reality of shinobi life. Following the battle at the bridge in Wave, Naruto turns a new leaf and begins training seriously. Please like and subscribe to show your support. Let's get the show started. For 15, Uchiha District. Dawn was still a while away as a large number of shadows crept into the mostly abandoned area better known as the Uchiha District. Very few people would know what was to happen there, and the concealed forms of every single Anbu operative present at the time in Konoha were there to make sure of it. Two specific shadows reached the doors of one Sasuke Uchiha's home, the former residence of the clan head of the Uchiha. The single visible guard who stood there briefly nodded as he waited for the identifications. The two pulled out a pair of scrolls from the cloaks that covered them both entirely. The guard opened both scrolls, and after a short look returned them, letting both of them pass inside. The larger of the two removed the hood and the cloak as soon as they were inside, revealing it to be Naruto, and the figure next to him Anko. They both walked quietly as they approached the former council chambers, a well-isolated and protected area that was perfect for the meeting that was to follow. Naruto and Anko walked into the large circular chamber and seated themselves on the floor. There were a lot of people present, some of which they knew. The entire Rookie 9, plus Guy's team, the Hokage, Yakushi Saito, along with his adopted son Kabuto, representing the Medic Corps, Cat, Tiger and Commander Wolf representing the Anbu, of course all of the Jounin still present in Konoha, along with all of the clan heads and of course Jiraiya of the Sannin. Naruto and Anko were seated in different areas, Naruto with his genin team and Anko among the Jounin. There was still a little time before the meeting started, and as usual, general chatter and gossiping ensued. Long time, no see Dobe, Sasuke jokingly greeted his friend. Nice to see you too Sasuke, Sakura, Naruto greeted them both. How was your training? I heard from Kabuto that you were advancing quickly, but he wouldn't tell me any details. Sakura beamed at the praise, although was mildly curious just how Naruto knew about Kabuto training her. Seeing the look on her face, he smiled. Kabuto's my neighbor. We talk, you know, he jokingly reassured her, as she prepared to answer, only to be interrupted by a loud cough. Instantly the room quieted down as the Hokage stood up and walked to the central area. A few murmurs still persisted. Quiet down everyone, Sarutobi started in a firm voice. I know most of you are nervous about being lifted out of your bed at an early hour, but before the day starts, this meeting must be over. So let's get started. As most of you are aware, Otogakure, under the leadership of Orochimaru, is preparing an invasion, and according to recent intelligence reports Tsunagakure will be joining as well. Our spies in Suna have reported around that the group they sent will be about 600 in number. We have no current knowledge of the numbers Orochimaru will have with him, but we assume that he will be bringing his elites, which should account for another 400-inch. Whispers followed the explanation, as the few who didn't know about this were informed of the details. A number of people were looking in Naruto's direction, knowing that he was directly responsible for at least half of the information about the invasion. Now, to the situation at hand. Shikaku-san? Sarutobi politely called, as the elder Nara walked out into the middle of the area. Yes. After thoroughly analyzing the situation, the most likely point of attack would actually be the very arena where the exams are being held, a combined assault from infiltrated units that will attempt to take out the stronger ninja that are present in the arena, while a combined force besieges the village from the outside. We also assume that, due to his hatred of this village and its leadership, Orochimaru will most likely be leading the infiltration group along with his bodyguards, the Sound Four. We are expecting that the other targets will include the hospital, academy. Thank you, Sarutobi said while they one more exchanged places. Each of you has received a sealed scroll with orders. You are to unseal them once this meeting is over. The scrolls will contain the position you are supposed to be at, your direct superior officer whose orders you are to follow, and his direct superior, should your leader end up Kia. All assassination squads are being given the profiles of their primary and secondary targets. Also, to all those interested, all the information we have on the enemy ninja has been gathered and compiled, and placed on that desk. He points to a rather large desk covered with small folders. Those will be given out before this meeting is adjourned. Now that this part is over with, I would like to invite Naruto, Uzumaki and Jiraiya for a rather important demonstration. All of the members of the Rookie Nine along with quite a few older shinobi watched Naruto with no small surprise, as only a few of them knew that he was training with Jiraiya, let alone working on something with him. The pair walked down into the center of the large room carrying 2 sets of 4 scrolls each. Both were also smirking. "Naruto, would you do the honors?" Jiraiya quietly asked. "You sure, sensei?" Naruto asked back, while Jiraiya was mildly shocked at what Naruto called him. "Yeah. Consider it training," he jokingly added. Naruto turned and pulled out one of the scrolls. He was damn proud of this work, even if it was done in secrets, as it was his greatest work in Fuinjutsu so far. Unfurling the scroll, he pushed just enough chakra into it. Out of the scroll popped out a large metallic rod. Taking a deep breath, Naruto began his lecture. Those of you who have read the reports about the Sound Four have probably noticed that they are barrier experts, which can turn out into a severe issue should they use some of the advanced variants. As such, Hokage has ordered the only 2 seal experts in Konoha, namely Jiraiya and me, to try and come up with an effective countermeasure. These rods, Naruto lifted the silvery metal rod into the air to make it visible to everyone, are the results of a month's collaboration. Naruto paused there, waiting for the information to sink in. He noticed that a few people had questions. One of the younger Chunin, one he didn't know, raised his hand to ask a question. "Yes? Uzumaki-san, would you explain a bit just why are those barriers so dangerous?" he asked curiously. Naruto stood for a moment, considering how to reply. "An example might work best, I suppose. One of the easier advanced barriers, the 4-point absorption barrier, creates a field that surrounds its makers and absorbs any jutsu sent at it to power itself. It also stops anything from passing through by forcing it out. In theory, the field can be overpowered, but I certainly doubt that we would have the time to do so. Such barriers are normally impenetrable without either prior preparation or a group of barrier experts to disable it. Now imagine this scenario, where this village is caught off guard, and the Hokage gets isolated fighting Orochimaru and the Kazekage while the Sound Four cordon off any access. As strong as Sandaime-sama is, he would be hard-pressed to win without serious injury or death. The explanation served its purpose, as a lot of sobered-up faces now followed him carefully, while a few others proudly watched. As for the purpose of these rods, they are the chakra equivalent of lightning rods, to put things simply. They will draw chakra from any barrier they are connected to and either store it in its chakra storage, or if that is full, will simply discharge it into the air. As all barriers are chakra constructs, draining the chakra their makers provide will disrupt and ultimately break down any barrier. With a short break for air, Naruto placed the other scrolls into his pockets as he held the rod in his hands. Contrary to what you may think, these are damn hard to make, and we managed to produce 4 sets of 4 pieces each. Why 4 per set? Simple, we are facing a group of 4, and should one not be sufficient to break down a barrier, the 4 of them will. Keep in mind that this is a weapon as well as a tool. By adapting a few arrays, it is now possible to discharge the gathered energy in the form of a concentrated bolt of lightning worthy of any normal lightning jutsu, aimed at any target. Naruto completed the explanation and felt once more the proud hand of his teacher on his shoulder. The smile that Jiraiya had on his face told everything he needed to know. He had done well. Among you, 4 teams will be selected to carry a set of the breakers each. They will be given to you sealed, only to be revealed should you encounter any barriers as their storage is empty. Second, a team will be assigned to work as my escort while we sweep any potential summoning circles and sabotage their general troops. Orochimaru has a contract with Manda, the snake boss, and I doubt he'd mind. offering our people as sacrifice for his minions, which he could, thanks to the circles, summon en masse, Jiraiya explained, sending a shiver up many spines. Summons were something that could easily tip the scales in battle, and numerous ones were something to be concerned about. A few people raised their hands. While I appreciate you volunteering, kids, don't. I need one squad, and those already got the job. We need you at other areas. Jiraiya finished and the two of them left the podium, once more replaced by Sarutobi. Well, that's it for this briefing. Should more information come up, you will be informed. Dismissed. With those words, within moments nearly half of the people in the room simply vanished. The other half started walking out in small groups, the final one consisting of Sasuke, Anko, Naruto and Kakashi. As they walked out, Kakashi decided it was about time to confirm certain rumors. Naruto, a little birdie told me you and Anko are an item. Any truth to that? He asked innocently, while Sasuke momentarily lost control and simply gaped at them, truly surprised that Naruto of all people could get in a relationship. Naruto threw a foxy grin while putting his arm around Anko. Quite true, Kakashi-sensei. We've been an item, as you put it, for nearly a month, he explained in a content tone. Kakashi mock cried and gave Naruto a thumbs up. I am so proud of you, Naruto. Strange, that's exactly what Erosenin did. Wonder why? He jokingly asked. No one in particular. Anko and Kakashi laughed while Sasuke looked at him strangely. Deciding it was time to chat up a bit with his friend, he kissed Anko goodbye and left with Sasuke to get a drink. The two soon found themselves in the infamous nameless Shinobi bar. One thing was certain about that place: if one didn't know what he was looking for, he would never find it. Also, the strange fact that non-shinobi and foreigners kept a safe distance from the place helped the two of them got one of the booths in the back, a well-concealed place where one could easily talk without being overheard. After ordering some sake, they finally started talking. Spill it. How did you and Anko get together? Sasuke asked. For a moment Naruto thought that Ino was sitting in front of him, considering that she was the queen of gossips. Curious, aren't we? Naruto teased. Fine. We met about around my last birthday during my self-imposed vacation to the forest outside the village. My birthdays aren't something I like to spend home. We talked, and after that we met a few times, messed around and stuff. It just kinda happened, Naruto explained. Sasuke chuckled at the end, just like in the movies. Adobe? Sasuke joked. Naruto smiled. He liked this new Sasuke that had appeared since they became ninja. He would never admit it out loud, but he held a great deal of respect for the raven-haired Uchiha. It took a strong will not to break after what he went through, seeing your family die before you and having it repeated in front of your eyes for 72 hours was no joke. Well, time for a well-placed barb anyway. At least I'm closer to rebuilding my clan than you, team, he teasingly replied, to which Sasuke scowled, but he quickly composed himself. Didn't know you had one, Naruto, he near whispered. I'll tell you about it in a few days, Naruto replied, not really willing to talk about it now. It was still too dangerous. Sasuke, knowing just how stubborn Naruto could be, sighed and gave up on the subject. How did your training with Kakashi go? Naruto started, hoping to continue the conversation. Harsh. Remember all that lazing around he used to do? Naruto nodded. Well, he's a slave driver when he wants to be. Though I did learn a lot during the past month, Naruto laughed. Kakashi was a former Anbu captain. He knew how to get the job done. What about you? I heard rumors you were trained by Jiraiya of the Sannin. And then that stunt the two of you pulled today, what was that all about? Don't ask, Naruto said in an annoyed tone. Apart from telling you the fact that he was helping me train, everything else is considered classified information. Aside from what you heard today, that is. Another sigh, on a more entertaining thought, have you heard anything about the others? I only heard about Sakura being trained by Kabuto, and that's only because he's living in my building. Sasuke sat silently for a second, before taking his first sip of sake. Not a bad taste, I see why the others like the stuff. I don't really know much myself. From what I heard, the teams have mostly worked apart, each team for themselves. I'm pretty sure that Hinata and Neji are training together though, he slowly explained, opting for another sip afterward. Oh? That's news. Pause, sip. How do you think all of this will turn out? He asked in an unusually serious tone. Sasuke sighed, damn me if I know. But I think I'll take a page from your book on this one. Really? I think I'm feeling proud, Naruto commented with a mock-serious face. Really? Give it my all and kick their asses till they can't move, replied with an equal one. Both burst into laughter, before paying up and parting ways. The clouds were gathering. Naruto guessed that the first snow would fall soon. Perhaps it was time for another visit to one of his favorite places in Konoha. With a small, barely visible smile, Naruto speed off towards the Hokage monument, using the surface of the cliff to move up. When he finally reached the top, he realized that the sun hadn't yet come up. The view was beautiful, even if the chilling wind made the stay somewhat unpleasant. He had some thinking to do. Seating himself on the carved head of his father, he contentedly watched the sky. He suddenly smiled. Couldn't wait any more, Haim? He asked in a slightly cheerful voice. A slight chuckle was heard behind him as he was suddenly tackled to the ground by a charging Anko. Naruto laughed as he hugged her. I missed you all the time. You were gone, he said, suddenly turning serious. Would you believe me if I told you I couldn't stop thinking about you? Anko asked him. After planting a kiss on her lips, Naruto silently nodded. It's funny how things change, and in such a short time, she quietly started, still lying atop of him on the ground, hugging his body for all it was worth. If someone told me a year ago I would fall in love like this, I would have laughed at them, she whispered. Right before you threw a kunai at them, Naruto added, earning him a poke in the chest. No at all, she muttered, trying her best to sound angry. She still couldn't believe it. She had someone who truly loved her. Kurenai was a dear friend, but this was different. A different she very much liked. She kissed him again, once more savoring the sweet taste of his lips, ramen and sake. It's actually a nice combination. She hugged him and decided to leave it at that for now. He hugged her back and the two of them remained in a gentle embrace for some time. Anko-Haim? Naruto softly whispered. There was one last secret he had to reveal to her. It was eating him on the inside, the fact that he didn't tell her. I have something to tell you, but I think I should say it at home. Anko looked at him suspiciously, wondering just what the blonde had in store, but nodded in agreement. Fine, but you're making breakfast, she threatened, eliciting another laugh from Naruto. He couldn't remember really laughing this much before he met her. The young couple silently moved back to the apartment, Naruto indeed opting to make breakfast for the two of them. He was slightly nervous, but still, it wasn't anything bad, so he doubted there would be problems. Spill it, Anko shortly said, slightly annoyed that their fun was interrupted. Naruto nodded and activated all of the security barriers the apartment had. A while ago, I discovered who my parents were, he shortly started. I think it was right after the preliminaries, when the old man called me in and told me everything. Anko quietly listened to his speech, wondering if her suspicions were correct. Turns out, my father was Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage, she finished. Naruto was startled. How? Did I know? I didn't, but it's not really that hard to tell. I mean, how many blue-eyed blondes are there in Konoha? Not to mention that if you added whiskers to his head on the monument he'd look just like you, she explained with a gentle smile. Naruto made another of his sheepish grins. It was obvious, except for the fact that people simply didn't want to look for it. My mother was Uzumaki Kushina, and it turns out Jiraiya is my godfather, which you probably didn't know. Also, we're moving into the estate as soon as the invasion is over. I'm making it public then. Until that happens, I'll just stay as Uzumaki Naruto. So, does that make me the next MS Namikaze? She jokingly asked, but her smile faded when she saw his serious face. "Only if you want to," he quietly said, "but I don't think we should rush things. Don't get me wrong, I love you, there's no doubt to that, I just think we should take this one step at a time." Anko got up and went over to the kitchen. "You really are a spoilsport, you know," she commented in a mock-sad voice. Yeah, he replied, waving her off. "We really should get ready for tomorrow. And I made something special for you as well," he added with a devious smile, one that Anko had come to know and love, especially when it was aimed at someone who was an enemy. An hour later, Anko gleefully followed him to his desk where two scrolls were placed one next to the other. He picked up the one marked Anko and handed it to her. "This is a set of additional equipment I prepared for you, Anko-can. A set of 50 of my improved kunai, 10 improved exploding tags, 5 chakra restraint tags, 2 poison sunbond trap scrolls and finally a breaker. I wish I could make more, but I was somewhat short on time." All the while Anko was staring at him like he had grown an extra head. "More? Is he crazy? This is better than the standard Anbu mission set. But it will be fun, Ankoheim? Are you okay?" he asked in a slightly worried tone, before he noticed the thoroughly evil grin on her face. May Kami have mercy on her enemies, she certainly won't. She finally calmed down a few seconds later, remembering something. "Naruto, could you show me how to use that breaker?" she asked. Naruto nodded and unsealed his own scroll, drawing out the metallic rod. Anko got her first chance to observe the device. The rod itself was made from black iron, and rather than a pipe, it was a full cylinder, about 4 feet in length. The entire surface was covered with intricately carved, interconnected silver seals. As much as I hate to admit it, while this was my idea, it was Jiraiya who did most of the work. "You see these 2 seals?" he asked, pointing to 2 rather obvious large arrays. Anko nodded. "This one controls its absorption. Activate it and stick it into what you want it to drain. The chakra storage on the rod will fill up as much as possible, and the rest will go out. The other one allows you to discharge the stores into a single bolt of lightning aimed by this side. It should shaken up the competition, no?" he jokingly added, while Anko was making a sinister smile that would make Orochimaru proud. The smile vanished as she grabbed Naruto and dragged him off to the bedroom for another makeout session. Later that day Naruto would unseal the scroll with the orders from the Hokage, only to smirk at what he read. "This is going to be interesting," he quietly commented as he stroked Anko's hair. Tomorrow morning, Naruto and Anko's apartment. Several stabbing sounds were heard from the apartment as a number of kunai, shuriken and other harder-to-identify projectiles utterly annihilated an unfortunate alarm clock. Naruto's eyes snapped open instantly as he got up. Anko only steps behind. There was nothing said. Today was the day the invasion was going to happen. After a quick breakfast, the two of them got sat on the couch, spending as much time as they could together before they would have to go. "Take care, my love," Naruto whispered as he hugged Anko goodbye. With a small wink, she decided on a kiss. "You know I always do," she replied before they parted ways. Same time, Uchiha District. Uchiha Sasuke was currently standing in his family's shrine, offering prayers to the powers that be to protect him and his friends. He lit another stick of incense and got up, carrying in his arms the sword that had for generations stayed in his family, forged by its founder Madara. It was a good sword, but deceptively simple, without any decorations on it. For years it had been left in the shrine, as the clan council forbade anyone from wielding it, but now, he certainly didn't care about the opinion of dead fossils. A sword wasn't meant to stand as a decoration. "May this blade once more protect our homes," he prayed in whisper, before drawing the blade from its sheath. While hardly an expert at kenjutsu, he could recognize a good sword when he saw one, and this sword, known simply as the Flame Spirit, was a perfect blade. Its unblemished surface was a near-perfect gray, the blade itself was well balanced, cutting through the air with no resistance. Strapping the unassuming blade to his side, he prepared himself for the finals. And the invasion that would follow. Walking over to his own bedroom, he gathered all of his equipment and finally unsealed the scroll with the orders. His eyes widened at the text within, and after rereading it several times, he burnt it. "Oh, the irony," he sarcastically commented as he left his home. Haruno family home, Sakura's room. Sakura sighed for what was probably the 100th time this morning. Going through her mental checklist, she prepared everything she needed for the battle that would come soon. The skills and routines that Kabuto drilled into her head were something that she did instinctively now. She had changed her outfit. She wore black skin-tight shorts, with a red sleeveless shirt and knee-high ninja sandals. Putting on a pair of fingerless leather gloves, she finally deemed herself battle-ready. I once more repeat that I stink at describing outfits. This is her outfit from Shippuden, since I have to admit that I prefer that one. The holster on her right leg contained a set of scrolls, holding everything from first aid kits to shuriken, kunai and senbon. I still have an hour to go before the matches start. I wonder what Ino is doing. She thought out loud while pacing in her room. Hyuga compound, Neji's room, an eerie silence, broken only by sounds of breathing, permeated the room. Neji Hyuga had spent the better part of last night in deep meditation, considering his path in life. Like so many others, he had thought of one person in particular, Uzumaki. Naruto. Originally, he had thought the blonde was an idiot, not even worth the time wasted to speak of him. Hinata had always thought highly of him, even when all others shunned him or laughed at him. Could she really have been right? Could his younger cousin's eyes truly have seen more than his? Is my fate truly set in stone? He asked himself as he watched the reflection of the caged bird seal on the impeccably polished surface of his hitayat, or can it change? Hotel room, eastern part of Konoha, Sabaku no Gaara, the Jinchuriki of Shikaku was worried. For a person who never showed any concern for the rest of the universe and considered his purpose in life to prove his existence by ending the lives of others, it was a new feeling. Mother had been strangely quiet since yesterday, and his own siblings seemed to be oblivious to the change in the wind. He couldn't put his finger on it, but he was sure of one thing: regardless of the invasion, today his life would change. For the better or worse, that still remained to be seen. He considered who the most challenging opponents could be, and his mind focused on two: Uzumaki Naruto and Sasuke Uchiha. On the other side of the room, Temari was worried as well, but for different reasons. Unlike her younger brother, whom she both feared and was afraid for, she didn't have any ultimate defense, and the coming invasion today had her nervous. When she had first come, she had considered the Leaf Shinobi to be weak fools, but she quickly realized that she was wrong. The fact that they of all participating nations had the most genin in the finals spoke as much. Little did she know that her youngest brother was having similar worries. A third, for the lack of a better word, person, was also considering the events to come, wondering if she could somehow be freed. A sadistic and bloodthirsty smirk crossed her lips. The Hokage monument. "So, what do we do now?" echoed the voice. Two men, who had but a month ago sneaked into Konoha, had returned. Both of their bodies were covered by the same black cloaks and hoods, perfectly invisible. "We make sure that they can't interfere," the other replied, picking up his staff and standing up. "A storm is coming," he quietly noted, putting out his left hand. "Even the snow is beginning to fall. Could you please avoid the poetic nonsense?" the first one asked. "No appreciation for the arts," the other one sighed in defeat as they walked off. The arena, beginning of the finals, 9:45, the atmosphere at the arena was pleasant, much to the surprise of the members of the Rookie 12. The crowd was mostly chatting as they waited for the matches to begin. Sakura, Ino, Hinata, Kiba and Tenten, the only ones from the generation who failed in the preliminaries, were sitting in the stands, either gossiping or waiting for the matches to begin. Each and every one of them had their orders, and while they were all ready to execute them, they were also interested in who would win. During the matches, Sakura had noticed the subtle and not-so-subtle changes on her friends. During the past month she had actually spent a lot of time socializing in the evenings after her training with Kabuto, and had gotten to know most of the rookies much better than she did in the academy. She was startled for a moment when she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned around to find Kabuto-sensei. She almost shouted at the white-haired teen, "Glad to see you could make it." "Well, someone has to keep the contestants alive," he jokingly replied to his pupil. Not that he would tell or show, but he was proud of her. The girl had a lot of talent, and with proper training, she could probably be the next Tsunade. And her teammates weren't far off from the other two. Down in the arena, Naruto had tuned out the speech that Sarutobi was holding, opting instead to use his Radiance and Chakra tracking skills to locate anyone who doesn't belong. He noted more than a dozen shinobi whose signatures were completely foreign to him, which were most likely from Sand, seeing that they were here for the exams. The Kazekage was also strange. His chakra was different, for the lack of a better word, and it very much reminded him of. That answers that question, so that means that his bodyguards are probably members of his Sound 4. Wonder if the old man noticed it? Wait a sec, if that's him, where's the real one? He took a look at his fellow competitors. Very few of them had shown any drastic change over the month physically, but he noted that most of them had either more chakra, or in Chuji's case, a lot more muscle, but everyone was there. The ones he couldn't detect any change on were the foreigners mostly. He had to admit, there were a few people there that he wanted to match his skill and wits against, most notably Shin Tasai and that girl Mirai. Hearing that Sarutobi had finished the greetings and that a new proctor was about to start explaining rules, he started listening once more. "Everyone listen up," the man with a senbon in his mouth started. "I am Shiranui Genma, and I'll be the proctor for the final part of the exams. The rules are simple. All fights are to the point where one side is either out or surrenders. Anything and everything goes. Now, apart from Neji Hyuga and Naruto Uzumaki, you should all leave until your matches come up." Up in the Kage box, no one would notice the devious glint in the eyes of the Sandaime Hokage. Things were going according to plan. Naruto Uzumaki vs Neji Hyuga. Naruto smiled as he faced his first opponent. Snowflakes had once more begun falling, but much to the shock of many, Naruto was only wearing his brown pants and shirt, revealing the many tattoo seals that covered his arms. Neji made a smug smirk at his opponent, while Naruto simply laughed it off. He was itching for a good fight. "You seem to be in a good mood," Neji idly commented. "Just getting ready to kick your ass," Naruto jokingly replied. Which Neji ignored. While he wanted to believe that this was a nobody who couldn't even touch him, over the past month he had learned better. The story Hinata told him of the mission where her team assisted them was enough to give him reason to worry. Genma eyed the two, content that they at least wouldn't be killing each other, which was more than he could say about some others. "Alright, begin," he shouted as he jumped away. Naruto and Neji both took taijutsu stances, eyeing each other carefully. "Up for a challenge, Hyuga boy?" Naruto almost mockingly asked. "From you dead last?" "Anytime," Neji replied. Naruto however only smirked as he broke off his taijutsu stance and unsealed his sword. A few ohs and ahs were heard from the audience as people recognized the famous Kubikiri Hocho in the boy's hands. "Allow me to introduce you to my new and improved sword style, known simply as the Dance of Ruin," Naruto shortly announced. "It's still untested against a live opponent and hardly complete, but it should prove challenging, even without the killing techniques I created." He near whispered the last part, for Neji's ears only. "Shall we?" he asked. "By all means do," Neji replied as the veins around his eyes bulged out and his eyes took the characteristic shape of an active Byakugan. "What the? How the hell did he do that?" Neji inwardly cursed as he noticed that Naruto's chakra network was invisible beneath a second layer of chakra that loosely fitted the shape of his clothes. "What's the matter, Neji? Your all-seeing sight failing you?" Naruto taunted, but in a more jovial tone, without malice. "Maybe you should get glasses." Now, Neji was getting pissed off. For all his intellect, Neji had a bit of a temper on him, and one of the few things that could piss him off was when someone had insulted his ability, or worse, his sight. "That's it, Neji, we need to give the folks a show, otherwise they'll suspect something," Naruto silently mused as he prepared for the assault. Seeing that Neji decided against charging, Naruto did it himself. Quickly summoning a pair of shadow clones, he stood quietly while the pair charged, blades ready to kill or maim. Naruto watched Neji's speed and reaction intently, as he easily dodged the two swords and destroyed the clones with a pair of well-placed Juken blows. For a moment, Naruto winced at the memory of getting a blow like that. "I see, quite interesting," Naruto quietly commented. One of the things that he had learned during the past months was how to keep cool and calculating during combat. Jiraiya's help on the subject was of great aid. Neji's reaction speed was just a bit lower than his own, which was damn impressive and also meant that the chances that he would catch him off guard were low at best. And a single blow to a wrong place could mean the end of the fight for him. It was time for him to enter the fight. With a bit of chakra he formed the shell around the sword. His constant training had given him enough strength to effortlessly hold the sword in one hand as he charged. Much to Neji's dismay, the style was deadly. The quick fluid motions as Naruto kept leaping around, waving the blade at great speeds, fast enough that he had problems parrying the blows, and even adding kicks and punches to the combination. He knew that there was no way he could outlast him, only two others even stood a chance of doing so. And guess who? Laughing face, he would have to either outsmart him, which wouldn't be easy, or outmaneuver him, which would be equally hard since he didn't have enough time to perform his kaiden and send him away. He had to admit it, Naruto was damn good with his sword. Mirai watched the match with growing curiosity. She had heard rumors that a certain nin from Leaf had acquired the sword of Zabuza Momochi, and she had found out that not only were the rumors true, but its new wielder was more than just skilled. But what seriously surprised her were the moves he used. The style was oddly familiar to her, but she couldn't help but feel that something was missing. I wonder why Mizuka-Gesama gave that order. Next to her, Shin Tasai was enjoying the match. Naruto Uzumaki had proven to be a genuine surprise, and quite a contrast to the records their spies managed to acquire. He was beginning to wonder if said files were intentionally faked to keep his skill hidden. The boss lady gave her orders, and it looks like this time, it will be fun to follow them. Their third member, Nakai Kitsujin, enjoyed watching a fellow swordsman, even though he was originally insulted that someone would claim the Kubikiri Hocho. Naruto had so far proven himself to be a worthy warrior. Neji persevered, waiting for an opening to strike back at his opponent, and it finally paid off. 5 minutes into the charge, he slipped a single strike to a nerve cluster in Naruto's right arm, completely disabling it below the elbow. Using the opening he created, he instantly disabled the other arm at the same place. The sword dropped with a heavy sound, raising a cloud of dust even as the snow began covering the ground. Naruto jumped back, dodging blows as he moved. "Ready to surrender, Uzumaki?" Neji asked with a smug look on his face, certain that his enemy was done for. What could he possibly do without his arms? He was about to find out. "You know, I really didn't want to use this yet, but then again, you're a good opponent," he replied with a wide smile. And closed his eyes. Neji instantly tensed up, he still remembered that Naruto had no problems fighting blind. Suddenly, the people in the crowd saw him jump, only for the place he was standing at to explode while Naruto was only holding his arms at his sides, still disabled from the blows. "Not bad, Neji, but how long can you keep it up?" Naruto asked in a monotone voice, revealing the level of concentration he was holding at the moment. "Chakra art," he silently mused, "I wonder how much time will it take him to figure out what's going on." Neji was shocked and frightened for the first time in years. It took his all just to keep up with the explosions, and his only warning was a short buildup of chakra before it flared. Up in the crowds a certain Cyclops watched in shock. It was a jutsu his sensei had created, however not even he was this fast with it. And next to him a slightly worried guy was watching his pupil getting manhandled. Naruto kept his focus on the seal arrays he was making beneath Neji's feet, making sure he gave him just enough time to dodge without getting badly hurt. With a plan in head and his hands finally recovering from the attack, he slowly walked over and picked up his sword. He almost spent the amount of chakra he had set aside for this match. Time for the finisher. With his sword firmly in hand, he stopped making more seals, leaving a winded Neji a few moments to recuperate. "You know, you can still surrender," he said in a serious voice. Neji just stared back at him. "Fine then. One final clash?" "Fine," Neji replied as he prepared. He was caught off guard once. There would not be a second time. He too had a few tricks up his sleeve. He hadn't tried it yet, but he was ready. As Naruto moved forward to land a blow, he heard Neji speaking in a serious voice, "You are within my field of divination." The words echoed as Naruto's world slowed down. 8 trigrams, the voice continued, 64 palms. All of Naruto's instincts screamed for him to pull back, to get away as soon as possible, but he silenced them. As the first strike came in, so did the blade of his sword, the flat side heading straight for Neji's head. He painfully realized that most of the blows would land. 2 palms. 4 palms. Neji shouted as the speed drastically increased. 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 palms. 64 palms. The final blow landed, completely sealing off Naruto's chakra pathways, but the sword also reached its victim, dealing a strong blow to Neji's head, one that brought him to the floor, unconscious. Naruto himself wasn't much better, as he also fell to the ground, barely having the strength to move. Not the wisest decision he made. Using his sword as a crutch, he slowly, but surely lifted himself from the ground and looked at the proctor while shambling off to help Neji out. Winner Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto was shocked to hear the crowd cheering for him. Him of all people. With a wide smile he turned to face them all. Acceptance, the thing he craved his entire life. Few noticed just how strong his hand gripped the hilt of his sword. He would protect them, even if it cost him his life. Waking up the downed Neji with a few slaps and a bit of smelling salts, the medics escorted them both from the arena to the local medical bay for healing. As soon as their room was vacated, a group of Anbu medics moved in, dropping the genjutsu that concealed them. Wounds, the leader, wearing a rabbit, asked. Mild concussion and burns on the legs, Naruto explained for Neji. Sealed chakra pathways, Neji continued in the same style. The leader nodded and turned to his 2 teammates. Hawk, you take Uzumaki. Lion, you and I are taking care of the Hyuga. Both gave a short nod as they moved to their intended patient. Relax Naruto-san, you should be up and running within 10 minutes. Hawk explained as his hands glowed green. And indeed, 10 minutes later both shinobi were standing and checking their equipment, the 3 medic long gone to wait for the next team to drop in. You think they bought it? Naruto asked curiously. It would seem so. We both gave a convincing performance, Neji quietly replied. Naruto sighed before turning to his set of equipment. Did you pack everything, Neji? Naruto asked in a professional voice. Any grudges or other such matters were left behind at that moment. Hi. Although I could use some more soldier pills, he quietly noted, to which Naruto nodded and unsealed a small bag which he passed over. 10 pills, standard issue. Should be enough for your squad, he shortly explained. It should. Is your chakra network back to normal? Neji politely inquired. Yes, he stopped for a moment to unseal his red coat. I think we're ready, Neji shortly commented, as both their features softened. Hi, let's go watch the rest of the matches. Both of them quickly hid all of their additional equipment in scroll which were carefully concealed beneath their clothing before leaving for the stands. Once they got there, they split up, each going for his own team. Naruto noticed Sasuke going down for the arena. Hey, wasn't the second match supposed to be between Shino and that Kankuro guy? Sasuke nodded. Kankuro forfeited. Oh, joy, so much for disabling one of them. Wait, that means you're up, and against Gaara, right? Yeah. I have a bad feeling about this, Sasuke finally replied after standing quiet for a few moments. No kidding. Look, I don't know if they told you, but the guy's a Jinchuriki like me. He's dangerous, so play it safe, okay? And don't get yourself killed. If you can't beat him, just bail. I have something special in mind for him. Is that an order? He asked with a smirk, while inside he was curious as to what the blonde had in mind for Gaara. Yes, that's an order, Naruto replied before patting the teen on the shoulder. Kick ass, he added before leaving for the stands. Sasuke Uchiha vs Gaara Sabaku. With a perfectly calm facade, Sasuke Uchiha stepped into the arena. Across from was his opponent. The downright murderous and bloodthirsty glare that Gaara sent him brought a shiver up his spine. But he was no longer the brash idiot who would have run into things blindly. He held his hands calmly as he studied his opponent. Gaara had no obvious weapons or tools apart from the gourd on his back. Begin, Genma shouted as he jumped away. Gaara's only move was to uncork his gourd, letting a small trickle of sand escape it. The records mentioned his ability to manipulate sand. I'm not using the Sharingan yet, not until I can see his moves a bit, he silently planned. Moving through a few hand seals at great speed, he brought his right hand to his lips while his left charged a set of 5 kunai. Without intoning it, he spat 10 small fireballs, 5 of which had concealed shuriken. As soon as the fireballs reached Gaara, a shield of sand formed in front of him, stopping the 5 shuriken along with the fireballs. Pathetic, Gaara said in a low tone as a barrage of over a dozen shuriken made from sand separated themselves from the shield and went straight for Sasuke. With a quiet curse, Sasuke dodged the projectiles. He was glad though. He was the only one without orders to hold back as he had the toughest, and craziest, foe to face. He turned for a moment to notice that the sand shuriken had actually made holes in the walls behind him. Note to self, do not get hit by the shuriken. Seeing that normal projectiles wouldn't work, the young Uchiha set his other plan into motion. If you can't cut it or stab it, you blow it up. Not giving the red-haired boy the chance to set up an attack, Sasuke pulled out 8 kunai, each set with an exploding tag and threw them one by one at him. This time though, instead of standing still and taking the attacks, Gaara moved to dodge the projectiles even as 3 of them embedded themselves into his shield of sand and blew pieces of it apart. However, having the front covered by the shield, he failed to notice a charging Uchiha, Sharingan blazing and a katana in his hands crackling with electricity. Gaara tried to slam a large arm of sand into him, but failed due to Sasuke dodging it and slicing at him aiming at his torso. The blow landed, but there was no blood. Only a mildly shocked Jinchuriki. Sasuke was startled for a moment as the surface of Gaara's skin began to crack and fall off, revealing unharmed skin beneath. Gaara began to laugh. Sasuke actually cringed from the sound. The laughter was sick, twisted and very much like the homicidal smile on his face. Finally, he shouted as a shell of sand began to form around him, someone worthy to prove my existence. Mother will enjoy your blood, Uchiha. As he finished his speech, the sphere of sand completely surrounded him as large tail-like appendage extended and tried to swat Sasuke away. Something's wrong here, why would he barricade himself up like that? Sasuke thought as he prepared to attack him once more. Normal attacks wouldn't be enough this time. Moving back to and up the wall to get as much space as he could, he prepared for what was the pinnacle of his arsenal. Going through the few hand seals that the jutsu used, he put his right hand down while holding it at the wrist with his left, he himself standing in a half-crouch. Many in the crowd watched in amazement at the crackling ball of lightning that formed in Sasuke's hand. Chidori, Sasuke softly intoned as he charged down the wall, pumping chakra into his legs as his Sharingan kept his vision clear. Numerous sand spikes appeared on the surface of the sand sphere, and were suddenly launched towards him. Sasuke twisted and jumped to dodge every incoming projectile, all the time keeping the speed at the high levels the jutsu needed to work. Inside his safe shell, Gaara chuckled. The sand would crush the boy like all others who tried to defeat him before it. Suddenly his safe little world was crushed by a hand encased in lightning. And he felt it, the warm red liquid surged from his shoulder and flowed out. His right hand moved on instinct, touching the shoulder, while his mind was still in shock. Blood, he asked himself. My blood, he shouted. Aargghh, he screamed on the outside. Sasuke smirked at the fact that his Chidori was not only successful at breaking the sand shield but had managed to wound his enemy. That is, until he noticed the sphere once more extend spike, nearly impaling him. And finally, he felt something grasp for his hand. Worried, he pulls it out and jumps back only to dodge a massive, clawed and tattooed hand made of sand. What the hell now? He asked himself, not yet knowing just what the hell that was. Up in the stand several figures blanched at the sight. Damn it, what are you doing, little brother? Kankuro thought, his emotions a mixture of anger and fear. Next to him his sister was clutching her battle fan nervously, and their sensei, Baki, inwardly cursed. Up in the Kage box, a certain person smiled under his veil. While he wasn't in a hurry, he certainly didn't mind if things started a bit earlier than planned. Outside of Konoha, a large number of ninja were waiting, some around large inscribed seals, others simply hidden in the thick forest around the village, all at a safe distance, waiting for their signal to attack. They completely failed to notice a certain white-haired man in his small group that had been messing with something. Naruto was nervously watching the fight Sasuke was in. Gaara turned out to be a lot more dangerous than predicted. No wonder Orochimaru hoped to use him as a centerpiece for his assault. His thoughts were interrupted as he felt a wave of chakra cover the stadium, the makings of a strong genjutsu, trying to lull him to sleep. Not being one for such things, he quickly stabbed himself in the palm, the sting of pain instantly waking him up. In front of him, mixed with the light snow, were feathers. Atop his command post, Wolf, the Anbu commander in charge of all units in Konoha, sighed at the scene in the arena beneath him. Putting his hand on the small earpiece on his left ear, he uttered a single, meaningful sentence, to all on the frequency, clearance code S5427, engage according to operation parameters, to all on the frequency, clearance code S5427, engage according to operation parameters, the voice clearly commanded through the near-invisible headpiece on many ears. Within moments, the battle for Konoha had started. In his base on the roof of the Hokage Tower, Commander Wolf, a veteran of both the Second and the Third Shinobi War, was putting the plan into action. Apart from him, his advisors, Shikaku Nara and Hayashi Hyuga, along with over 24 aides, were going through the constantly incoming information delivered mostly by runners. The impromptu command post was covered by a ramshackle construction that mostly kept the wind and snow away, carefully watched and guarded by a dedicated group of Anbu veterans. Commander, we just received a report from the south, Hayashi stated, eyes never leaving the paper he had just taken from one of the runners. Yes? Wolf asked in an flat tone. Groups 5 and 6 have engaged the enemy. 10 casualties on our side, and over 100 on theirs. The unit under command of Asuma Sarutobi has taken out the officers in command of their southern group and are currently cleaning up. Good. Shikaku, what's the status of our assassination squads? 2 and 15 are too badly wounded to continue. We have 6 squads closing in on Asuma's position, preparing to intercept enemy reinforcements, Shikaku added. Sir, next communication window in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, clear. The comm station instantly came to life as a multitude of voices began giving out their reports to the overworked aides. Command post, this is Group 2 under Hataki reporting in. The stadium is getting overrun. Squads 1 through 6 are holding them off, and the barrier breakers have disabled 2 of the Sound 4, while the other 2, Kadamaru Kogetsu and Taiyuya, last name unknown, have broken off and joined enemy forces, presumably at north and east. The Hokage is currently engaging Orochimaru, while Squad 1 is engaging the Jinchuriki, all others are holding off the incoming enemy reinforcements. Requesting backup and a medical team as soon as possible. Over and out, Hatake, this is Commander Wolf. Reinforcements are already on the way, ETA 2 minutes. Wolf mostly kept quiet and listened to the other reports, until a very specific one that came over a reserved, private frequency stirred him. Commander Wolf, Code 0 here. Div-6 is ready to deploy. A Machiavellian grin covered Wolf's face under his mask. Most outsiders saw the ANBU as once cohesive, singular force, however in reality, the entire ANBU was divided into groups specializing in certain areas, such as interrogation, espionage, assassination. Then there's Division 6, or Div-6 as they're also called, the cream of the crop. Officially, each of the 5 members of Div-6 are dead and their identities hidden behind their masks, while all of their official records are burned, so no one apart from the Hokage and the Supreme Commander of ANBU even know of their existence or skills. Clearance granted. The 5 assigned targets still stand. Orders are search and destroy, Wolf whispered. While he trusted the men under him, rules were rules. Understood, Commander. Over and out, the cold voice of Code 0 replied. Opening complete. Let's see your next move, Orochimaru. Wolf mused. Naruto calmed himself as he gave the orders. He had already memorized the scroll that he had received a few days prior to the finals, along with the list of people who were going to be his subordinates. Flashback, Chunin Uzumaki Naruto Commanding Officer, Kakashi Hatake Subordinates, Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha, Kiba Inuzuka, Shino Aburame Phase 1 primary objectives are as follows. Disable the Ichibi Jinchuriki Gaara Sabaku. Provide support to the other teams within the area. Provide support to the Hokage. Secondary objective is to attempt and capture as many enemies alive as possible. Phase 2 Join up with your commanding officer. All further orders will be assigned directly by him. Additional operation parameters. At 0 hour, a full-scale communication blackout will be instated as the jammers disable enemy communication. However, it will be lifted every 10 minutes for 1 minute to forward orders and situation reports. At all other times, use summons or runners to carry information. During Phase 1, you are given complete authority over the Mist team consisting of Nakai Kitsujin, Makai, and Shin Tasai. All orders can only be changed or challenged by your commanding officer or Commander Wolf of ANBU, using the appropriate clearance codes. Clearance codes S5427. Initiation of Combat Operations A1259. Initiation of Phase 2 of Combat Operations D2421, Alteration of Orders by Commander Wolf. End flashback. Sakura, you're on support, help out anyone who needs it. Shin and Sasuke, Shino and Nakai, Kiba and Mirai, your 3 groups are my cover. Take out any approaching Suna or Oto shinobi. Move, he quickly ordered as he prepared himself to execute his own move. Shin wasn't a person who gladly followed orders, unless it was a person he respected. Naruto Uzumaki, even though he didn't know him, earned his respect for his skill and sheer gut. He and Sasuke were teamed up, and he had to admit, they worked quite well together. While the Uchiha relied on his family blade to effortlessly slash through his enemies, he turned to his taijutsu, all the while channeling lightning chakra into his body, stunning and or killing anyone he hit. You're falling behind, Uchiha, Shin said in a taunting tone, but without any malice as he crushed the windpipe of an enemy. He wasn't without wound either, although like many of the Leaf Shinobi, his were only superficial, mere scratches compared to the corpses he left behind. As far as my eyes can see, you're the one with 5 less kills, Sasuke retorted before asking, notice anything strange? Yeah. Genin, Chunin at best, he offhandedly commented the strength of his opponents. So where are the heavy hitters? Sasuke wondered as he stabbed and sound Nin through the heart, all the while dodging a pair of kunai aimed for the back of his head. 15, he shouted. Damn. On one side of them, Kiba, Akamaru and Mirai were fighting their own battle against 4 sound ninja. Much to Naruto's original surprise, none of his subordinates raised any issue to his orders, nor did they have problems working with foreign ninja. I suppose I will no longer be needing this, Mirai idly commented, her arms hidden beneath her robe. What the hell are you talking about, woman? We're in the middle of a fight here. Kiba angrily commented as he dodged another blow from two of his enemies. A short slashing sound was heard as the robe Mirai wore was cut to pieces and her straw hat was thrown off. Beneath the long robes was a deadly young woman, dressed in simple black pants and a red jacket, long black hair formed into a long braid falling down her back, armed with a pair of silvery white sai in her hands. Unless you want to die, dog boy, she said in a flat voice, better hope you can fight well. The unfortunate trio of sound ninja didn't get the chance to continue listening to their argument, as two were killed by twin whirlwinds of claws and the third got a pair of sai shoved through his neck. A smirk crossed Mirai's normally calm face. Not bad, dog boy, up for a little competition, she asked, parrying another blow and landing the riposte to her enemy's heart, slipping it right through his ribs. Kiba stabbed his clawed hand into the guts of a newcomer and ninja and threw him at another enemy. Anytime, he replied as Akamaru ripped out the throat of yet another foe. While Kiba hadn't added any new jutsu to his repertoire, he had worked hard on his taijutsu, his stamina and his speed. A month of being run into the ground did wonders for all three, much for the dismay of his enemies. And evasion practice, as Kurenai so lovingly called it, had him dodging a lot of kunai while walking on water or climbing trees. Suffice to say, he had very little problem facing the enemies. On the other side, Shino and Nakai were holding off a total of 10 enemies. How many more do you see? Nakai asked, parrying a kunai blow with one of his twin swords. About 20, Shino calmly asked as his beetles started swarming towards his enemies, while he dodged the blows of two ninja. Oh joy! Nakai charged towards the nearest, deftly evading the strike sent towards his head, and slashing at the man's chest while kicking him in the family jewels. Right behind him, Shino jumped on the shoulders of the falling victim, quickly throwing a storm of shuriken which Nakai used to move in closer to the others. He loudly cursed as a kunai was stabbed into his forearm, but that didn't stop him as he decapitated the man with both swords. As the remaining 5 moved to attack him, they felt the chakra-draining insects finish their job, and fell to the ground. Shino's white coat was marred with dirt and blood, 2 shurikens still stabbed into his left arm causing mostly flesh wounds. Sakura, he shouted, but the pink-haired medic was already there, moving in to remove the shuriken and heal up the wounds. Another detachment moved in to kill them, a pair of sound ninja attacking the two directly. They almost reached them when a pair of elongated kunai covered with a brilliant blue light stabbed themselves into their hearts. Sakura easily pulled her 2 kunai out, returning them to their respective seals on her gloves. I hate it when people interrupt me, Sakura angrily commented as she returned to healing Shino and Nakai's wounds. Naruto stood calmly, an impassive face against his opponent. Both Jiraiya and Kakashi drilled the fact that a ninja must remain calm and collected at all times into his head. However, such a feat was nowhere near as easy when one notes that he has 2 rather than 1 opponent of great power. Had he known more about the pale boy behind him, he would have been worried, for the second person to join this fight was Kimimaro Kagaya, Orochimaru's strongest warrior and last wielder of the Dead Bone Pulse, a bloodline that allowed its carriers to shape and grow their bones at will. Oh goody! I'm surrounded, whatever shall I do? Naruto sarcastically commented to no one in particular as he drew out his sword. Kyubi, any ideas on these 2? Or should I just wing it? Why do you keep asking me, kid? I taught you more than well. Just striking up a conversation, no need to get all bent out of shape, very funny. Now get. I've got popcorn to eat, popcorn. Uzumaki-san would suggest you surrender, the pale boy said in a calm, polite tone. I'm afraid that's not an option. You see, Gaara over there wants to kill me, Naruto replied in an equal voice, causing him to quirk a near non-existent eyebrow. "Besides, you have the advantage over me." "Kimimaro," the other teen replied, before his field picked up a barrage of Sanbon from one side, a wave of sand coming from the man-slash-demonic raccoon amalgam on the other, and a number of finger bones coming from a third. "Wait, bones? How the hell does he do that? Must be a bloodline of some sort." Naruto quickly parried the Sanbon with the sword, while leaping over the wave of sand, letting it block the finger bullets. He wasn't even getting winded. A wave and a dozen projectiles? A joke to his reflexes and planning. He stopped for a split second to take in the appearance of his two opponents, and realized that there were multiple squads engaging the rest of his team and that they were currently cut off from the rest of the troops. He would have been worried, but he also felt a large number of allied troops converging on the location. Till they got there, he'd have to keep his team alive, and that meant finishing up this fight as soon as possible. His musings were interrupted by continuous waves of projectiles which he kept blocking and evading, managing to send some of them into the enemies to help his team a bit. He heard a distinct whisper of "Dance of the Willow," and was mildly surprised to see Kimimaro charging towards him with bone spikes extended from his palms, elbows, knees and shoulders. Inwardly cursing, he dodged the first attack by rolling to the side, only to see that Gaara had no intention of cooperating with Kimimaro as the sand took over even more of his body, now fully covering him apart from a small patch on the left side of his head. He had wasted too much time and now Shikaku was almost awake. Dodging the blow of two massive demonic arms, he stood up. "I see. So much for messing around, and I was so looking forward to an easy fight," he commented with a mild dose of sarcasm, all the while inwardly cursing. He would have to show his cards earlier than he planned. Well, this is war. He silently patted himself on the back for forcing himself to read the entire scroll that Master Kai's Turok made. To think that the last seal turned out to be a containment one, and the scroll vividly described the true form of said sword. And the process of freeing it was ever so simple. Biting his right thumb, he smeared a bit of his blood on the surface where one of the three hidden arrays began glowing. "Awaken, Quicksilver. Your blade is once more needed," he solemnly called. Suddenly, the surface of the sword rippled and within moments the blade began flowing into a new shape, as the chakra-infused liquid metal moved. The shape didn't change much, except for the top of the sword. The small curve extended itself into a full crescent as another formed on the other side and a second edge joined the first, forming a powerful dual-edged sword. The sword once more solidified itself as four holes the size of the previous one formed themselves and the seal arrays that once adorned the surface extended around them, a cold blue light softly emanating and a single green crystal emerged from both sides of the crescent on top. Within 2 seconds, the tides of war shifted once more. "Now, where were we?" Naruto asked in a serious voice, as a scowl decorated the faces of his opponents. The man designated as Code Zero smirked as he moved through the snowfall, never leaving behind as much as a trace of his existence apart from a trail of corpses killed by a standard-issued kunai. Out of the 5, he was the assassination specialist. While somewhat proud of his skills, he knew better than to let his pride cloud his judgment. Code 2 repeated that more than a few times as she slammed that accursed book of hers into his head more than once. Or was that because he had stolen her supply of sweets? It didn't matter much at this point, all that mattered was getting the job done, and that involved taking leadership of one of the assassination squads. Not that he minded. Spotting a small field base, he sneaked up as close as he could without attracting attention. Drawing out a set of linked explosive tags, he skillfully hid them, making sure that no one would know about them before it was too late, and moved away. Seconds later, a loud explosion rocked the southern sector of Konoha. Asuma tiredly grunted as both he and his team finally completed the arduous task of escorting the last of the civilians out of the village and into the safety of the shelters under the Hokage monument. Now, all he had to contend with were 100 enemy ninja. "Sensei, just how did we get fooled into taking this troublesome job?" Shikamaru asked in an irritated voice, while his teammate Ino grunted in agreement. Don't ask Shikamaru, Asuma tiredly commented as he spotted a figure he recognized from the reports. Things just got a hell of a lot worse, he quietly added as he recognized the face of Kadamaru Kogetsu. He probably would have commented more, but he was forced to dodge a large earthen projectile aimed at him. Chuji, you and Ino go for the others. Shikamaru, you're with me. Miko, Fusaka, and Shota, go along with Chuji and Ino. Asuma quickly ordered as the team split up, leaving Asuma and Shikamaru to face the leader of the enemy group. While additional help would have been useful, people he didn't know how to work well with would have been more of a hindrance than an aid. The four-armed Kadamaru was studying them curiously even as he was making a spear out of the chakra-infused webbing he secreted. There was something disturbing about the way he studied them, like a predator studying its prey. He stopped his study only to throw the spear at them. Asuma shifted his head a bit to avoid the projectile. Subtle, are we? Asuma commented, while taking a drag from his cigar. Both he and Shikamaru were also studying him. Any suggestions, Shika? He quietly asked the resident tactical genius. We call for reinforcements? The files were vague, and this guy is easily a jounin if not more. Not an option, I'm afraid. Fine, he stopped for a moment, putting together everything he knew of Kadamaru. Strike him from the left, and keep him busy for a few seconds. I have a new jutsu to try, he quickly explained. Of all the people to take part in the defense, very few would actually say that they enjoyed their job. One of the said few was Anko, currently in command of a full assassination squad, who didn't have any work on this scale since the last war. She was near giddy with excitement as the group broke up to take down one of the small command and communication posts, aiming to take out their chain of command and to leave the rank and file without any orders from above. The job was challenging to say the least. No intel on the victims, no intel on the target area. Basically seek and destroy without getting caught or dying. Using her own portable equipment, she tracked down one of the small relay stations the invaders were using to broadcast orders. Masking her chakra, she carefully sneaked up on a small alley where a group of 3 were huddled around a portable comm station while another 2 guarded them. Noticing the other members of her group on the surrounding buildings, she silently gave her orders. Through a series of hand signs. Others complied and moved into position as they prepared their respective moves. Anko grinned wildly at the thought of explosives she packed. Drawing out a pair of the improved tags that Naruto had prepared for her, and picking up a kunai and wrapping both around the handle. Waiting for the right moment, she raised her hand to give the signal as her left one held the kunai ready to throw. When the 2 guards faced each other, she quickly dropped her right one as the kunai took flight straight into the comm unit, quickly followed by a wave of projectiles from multiple directions, along with several cries of fire release, grand fireball. The team of 5 was caught completely off guard and instantly obliterated. Wolf, this is AS-1. Southern Comm Center is out. Over and out, she quickly spoke, using the last moments of the clearing before the blackout was reinstated. Each and every move must flow along with the blade. Let the sword's flow guide your own. Naruto inwardly repeated the mantra to himself as he began his attack. Naruto was no longer holding back even a bit, mixing every single skill he knew into the complete and utterly deadly dance of ruin as he called it. 8 clones in him, the number being a tribute to one of his teachers, continuously applied pressure on the 2 nines, leaving no room for counterattacks as the exploding seals appeared every second or so, leaving their legs wounded. Kimimaro frowned, as his opponent was far more powerful than he was led to believe. While the 9 copies of Naruto were stopping both of them, neither could even mount a defense, forced to dodge each attack. Kimimaro was hit harder though, as the sword easily flowed through his every defense. Naruto watched with interest as the curse seal on his chest flared up and started transforming Kimimaro. However, Naruto wasn't going to just sit around. In reaction, the real Naruto replied with his own transformation, Radiance, compression, he spoke in a quiet voice as the shell of chakra quickly compressed around him, and a bright blue light began emanating as the chakra condensed. The shell grew ever smaller until it completely surrounded Naruto, drastically changing his appearance. His entire body was surrounded by a shell of blue chakra easily mimicking his limbs and clothes while 9 ghostly blue tails whipped around wildly. Naruto's eyes changed as well, as the cerulean blue of his iris expanded over the entire eye, leaving a perfectly electric blue eye. "Forgive me for what I am about to do," Naruto spoke in a cold voice. "Dance of Ruin," he whispered as one by one the clones rapidly vanished from sight. Kimimaro was shocked by the event. At one moment, he was holding off 5 of the Naruto clones, while the remaining 4 were engaging Gaara. Now, all of those 9 stood in a circle around him with their blades held above him, while one locked his eyes with his. It was no longer the look of a rookie ninja, no. The deep swirling, completely blue eyes were now cold and menacing, promising pain beyond belief to all those who stood against them. He felt helpless, like a body in the ocean during a vicious storm. He was at his mercy. "Judgment," the emotionless voice spoke once more as the 9 blades glowed a blinding blue before they slammed at him. He never had the time to react as the world faded to black, failing to hear a single whispered word that came to his ears. Many turned in shock to the event that had taken place as Naruto near effortlessly executed one Kimimaro Kagaya. Needless to say, the morale of the remaining sound shinobi plummeted at seeing their strongest shinobi so easily defeated, while he himself had changed into something that truly provoked fear. What Naruto didn't notice was the look of awe on the faces of his allies. From their hidden position, the members of Div-6 whistled at the kid, while Sarutobi smirked at his opponent for the 100th time in the last 10 minutes, Neji Hyuga cursed. If he didn't know better, he would have stared thinking that he was developing a language. Regardless of his linguistic problems, he now had bigger fish to fry, namely Taiyuya of the Sound 4. To his advantage, she was using genjutsu. To his disadvantage, the genjutsu were based on sound, so his Byakugan was useless against them. And the 3 disfigured giants weren't helping. Thankfully his younger cousin Hinata proved more than efficient, as he and she double-teamed the red-headed girl, both managing to weave through the defense of her 2 giants, and keeping her busy until the imposing figure of Mato Gai appeared near them right along with his near-exact clone, Rock Lee along with Tenten Higurashi. Watching the now strangely transformed girl in front of him, Neji decided on a course of action that he feared he would regret until the end of his life. Some fates were truly unmerciful. "Geizensei!" Neji shouted, stopping the battle for a moment. Swallowing the growing bile in his throat at what he was about to say, he used all of his considerable willpower to force himself to continue and pointed his figure at Taiyuya. "This young lady has been acting and speaking most unyouthfully." A look of slowly dawning horror covered both Tenten and Hinata's face, along with the faces of several other Chunin ninja who were present, albeit at a distance. The only one who wasn't aware what was happening was Taiyuya, but to her regret, that was about to change. For some reason, she couldn't shake off the feeling that something truly horrifying was about to happen. Orochimaru sighed tiredly. Contrary to the opinion of many, Orochimaru wasn't nearly as evil and twisted as those who stood against him believed. He was harsh and ruthless at times, when consumed by his desire and hunger for even more knowledge, which was his only true weakness. He had a goal in life, to gather as much knowledge as humanly, or inhumanly in his case, possible, even going as far as to learn a way to extend his life by using the bodies of his enemies, the scary bit being that he wasn't truly afraid of dying, rather, he was afraid of failing. While not physically strong like Jiraiya and Tsunade, Orochimaru knew an impressive arsenal of jutsu of all types and elements, along with a knowledge of seals that almost matched the Yondaime. However, even his keen analytical mind couldn't find a good exit out of the situation he found himself in. For the first time in years, he was outsmarted. So, Jiraiya figured out that I would attack, and the loss of all of my agents in and around Konoha left me blind to their plans. Clever sensei, very clever. Orochimaru's pale face scowled once more as his plan went even further off. Until now, he had to contend with Hiruzen Sarutobi and Kakashi Hatake, while his bodyguards sealed off the area with a barrier. Now, a team of Anbu using strange rods was destroying the barriers, and Sakon, Yukon and Jirobo had already fallen to the chakra loss caused by the rods. Did Jiraiya make these? No, he wouldn't have used a physical medium. Sensei doesn't work with seals that much, so that means that Konoha has another seal master, and I'd bet anything it's Uzumaki. Just how much of a bother can a single person be? The reality of the situation he found himself in had finally caught up. He was likely going to die, as he had miscalculated. He had expected on the element of surprise to give him the much-needed advantage, along with the summoning arrays to produce a number of massive snakes and the Ichibi Jinchuriki to wreak havoc. By what he was seeing, nearly half of his 1,000-strong army was now dead or disabled, and most of the officers were either dead or captured. Even if he defeated the Hokage, he knew Hiruzen wasn't called the Professor and God of the Shinobi for nothing. The old man probably had plans already laid in place should he die here. In other words, he was outmaneuvered and outsmarted. The invasion was a failure, and now was the time to cut his losses and get away while he still could, provided he figured out a way out. The 2 squads of reinforcements were nearby. All of his Sound 4 were either captured or missing, presumably leading the troops, and Kimimaro was engaging Naruto, Uzumaki and Gaara, who seemed to enjoy the idea of shedding even more blood. He had lost all of his troops, that much was certain. It was time to make a hasty retreat. It appears you're not as old as you portray yourself to be, Sarutobi Sensei. He spoke in a cold voice as a scowl marred his features. I'm still young enough to outsmart you, Orochimaru, the older man replied in a somewhat sad voice. After some 15 minutes of fighting they were at an impasse. Orochimaru's failure to execute the impure world resurrection jutsu, the one thing that would have given him a visible edge over the old man and Kakashi. However, it wasn't meant to be, as the 3 coffins were utterly obliterated before they even got a chance to rise from the ground. He jumped a bit back and quickly summoned a pair of mud clones, the soil on the roof the result of a number of earth jutsu being thrown around. Then I suppose that I'll have to end our encounter today, Orochimaru nearly whispered as he used a sealless shunshin to get away before submerging himself under the earth. Sarutobi sighed tiredly at the fact that his former pupil escaped as the 2 clones slowed down Kakashi. There was very little he could do to track Orochimaru down now. He was too good a tracker to fall for the same tricks. He had failed to stop his former student. Again. Outside of the battles, a trio of ninja watched the arena while they watched over their prisoners. Temari and Kankuro Sabaku, along with their Junin Sensei Baki, were captured by Div 6 members 2, 3, and 4, knocked out before they even had a chance to fight, and planned to be kept as hostages should the need arise later on. A strange silence descended on the stadium as one by one, the surviving shinobi dropped their weapons in surrender. However, one battle was still raging. Naruto and Gaara were staring each other down as both prepared to attack. Naruto smirked beneath the shell. He already had a plan in mind how to defeat the now almost fully possessed Jinchuriki. He had grown a bit more, now easily towering over the blonde. 30 seconds in a single moment, Naruto vanished. No words spoken, no taunts or threats given. There was no smoke or leaves. He simply ceased to exist in one moment. Gaara growled, but immediately began turning as he sensed a presence behind him, only for the oversized sword to slam into his tail, easily chopping it off. Gaara slammed one of his massive arms into Naruto, only for him to vanish with a cloud of smoke. 25 Instantly, another popped out, slashing at his other hand, easily breaking off a large amount of sand before he had a chance to regenerate. The process was quickly repeated with the left arm, easily leaving him crippled as a last cop of Naruto appear right in front of him. Radiance, overflow, the figure muttered as the shell and tails around him once more turned into a sphere and surrounded both, the bright blue light still glowing. 20 Radiance, storm sphere, inside, Gaara would have cursed, had he the mental presence to do so, as the blue sphere turned transparent white, and fierce winds shredded his entire sand cover, ending the direct influence of Shikaku on him. 10. Gaara watched in horror as his power was stripped from him by what seemed the avatar of an angry god, for the first time in his life frozen in fear, right along with Shikaku. Naruto smirked as he quickly went to the 57 seals before his right hand glowed brightly, even against the backdrop of his own chakra, while 5 symbols appeared on the tips of his fingers. 1. 5-element seal. Naruto shouted as he slammed the fingers into a stunned Gaara's gut. Before everything faded to black, Asuma glared at the webs that had covered the most of the street in which they fought. He was left with very little room to move. A few quick slices of his trench knives cleared up a bit more space as he hurried towards his own student, who was to his surprise keeping up with Kidamaru. Shikamaru, the laziest ninja, apart from his father, in Konohagakure, was actually keeping up with him, and not only that, from what he had seen, he was maneuvering his opponent into a trap, just a little bit more, and the fly will catch the spider. Shikamaru mused, "Gods, I'm starting to speak nonsense," he inwardly chuckled as he finally completed his trap. Using the long strands of spider silk to project his shadow over to Kidamaru, he had him trapped inside a small shadowed area as he began to go through the seals for one of the jutsus he found in the old clan scrolls, disused since the last Great War. Ninja art, shadow tendrils, Shikamaru called out as 3 tentacles made of a shadowy substance rose from the ground. "Impale," he shouted, and they stabbed through the enemy, instantly going through his heart, liver and neck. Kidamaru was killed instantly, never even given a chance to retaliate. Shikamaru dropped to his knees in exhaustion. That was. He started, only to have his mouth covered by a delicate feminine hand. "Don't you dare finish that sentence," Ino commanded from behind him, as he heard Asuma and Chuji tiredly chuckle from behind him. "Come on kids, as soon as things clear up, barbecue is on me," Asuma added with a tired smile, nearly laughing at the wide grin that adorned Chuji's face. Blink. And once more, blink. Naruto was shocked to say the least as he observed his surroundings, not that there was much to observe, considering that he was stuck in a realm of complete darkness. He was certain that this wasn't an intended effect of the 5-element seal that he used, meaning that he botched the jutsu. "Damn, and just when I thought I had it down. But just where am I?" he muttered. As he stood, he finally noticed a speck of light, and a figure walking towards him. It was a small boy, whom he recognized as a younger Gaara, carrying a worn-out teddy bear. He was crying. Naruto kept watching, as behind him his memories started unfolding. First was a faint memory of the pain of the sealing, something he couldn't consciously remember for some reason. Then came the fear from the others. Unlike Naruto, Gaara wasn't beaten. His sand defense took care of anyone who dared come too close with ill intent, but at the same time it kept people away from him. He watched in slowly growing horror as experiences from his entire life came up one after the other, many mimicking his own, the hate, fear and loathing directed at him, the whispers, the glares. Everything he saw, the betrayal of the one person Gaara had explicitly trusted, his uncle who under the orders of the Kazekage went to kill the boy, and with it the final snap which turned the said, hurt boy into a monster fueled by Shikaku's power. Naruto felt his own pain at the memories, which were scarily similar to his own. Was this truly the fate of the Jinchuriki? To be feared and reviled by all until the crushing loneliness turned them into cold, emotionless individuals or psychotics? Who are you? The little boy asked him. Did you come here to hurt me? He asked again with a dejected look. Naruto recognized those eyes, having seen them in the mirror for years. Monster? What gives others the right to judge him when they spent their time making him one? Naruto was rational by nature, sure he loved to goof of, and he at times didn't think things through, but there are parts of his nature which are purely emotional. Such as for instance the instinct to protect those who've been harmed in their life badly. He wasn't proud of it, but he was a sucker for a sob story. Calming himself down, he put on one of his kindest smiles. I'm not, he replied, crouching in front of the smaller boy, and ruffling his red hair. I'm like you know, he added sagely, and the boy stopped whimpering and looked him in the face. Like me? He asked, voice filled with disbelief. Would why, you? He started before trailing off, uncertain. Naruto thought for a moment, considering what the boy was trying to ask before he remembered what he himself would have asked. Would you be my friend? He asked the little red-haired boy, who now stared at him. The eyes of the boy were filled with surprise and hope, all mixed with a hint of fear. Fear of betrayal. He hugged the boy warmly, kindly, intent on banishing all such fears from the boy's heart, hoping for a moment to rekindle his spirit and faith in humanity, and then everything once more turned black. Naruto opened his eyes, finding himself in a small oasis, sitting next to a large sandstone cage containing a giant sand raccoon inside. Right next to it was Gaara, his back facing him, just as he remembered him, staring at the beastly entity, which was by the way, curled up and sleeping, not to mention snoring lightly. So you came here as well, Uzumaki, he said in a flat tone. Naruto only sighed. You are a strange one, he added. Naruto began noticing that although his voice was flat, it still held some amount of emotion in it. Right now, he was content, his mind resting after years of not being able to sleep normally for fear of the giant raccoon. Tell me, why are you so strong? Why do you fight so hard for those who harmed you in the past? He asked, this time letting a sliver of curiosity slip past. Naruto looked him straight in the eyes, studying him long and hard before answering. I fight, to protect those precious to me. He stopped for a moment. Tell me, you said more than once that you fight to prove your existence. Why do you need to kill to do so? Gaara looked at him, seemingly thoughtful, as a small snore interrupted them for a moment. You. No, if he wasn't a juggernaut of destruction bent on killing everything that moves, that would be funny. Naruto deadpanned. I think it still is, Gaara retorted in a completely serious voice. Naruto once more blinked in confusion. I kill those who are strong to prove myself, to prove my existence. The greater the enemy, the better. I believe that, but now I'm not so sure anymore. You say you fight to protect, and you are far stronger than me. Even he was scared of you. Wait a sec. If you know about him, then who's the mother? Naruto asked, still slightly confused. Gaara's head dropped, and for the first time Naruto actually saw emotion on the boy's face, and it was a deep sadness. When they sealed Shikaku into me, my mother's soul was ripped out of her body, and sealed along with it. Their souls are bound to each other, and while the part that is my mother cares for both me and my siblings, Shikaku is completely insane. Gaara explained, talking more in a few minutes than he did in years. He didn't know why yet, but he felt he could bare his soul before the blonde boy. For whatever reason, he felt safe. Kami, what kind of a monster does that to an unborn child? Naruto quietly muttered. My father, Gaara retorted quietly. Naruto paled before blood rushed into his face, and it took every bit of self-control not to get mad at that moment. You still haven't told me though. Why do you protect them? Because they made my life worth living. Because every time I look at them, they bring a smile to my face, and warmth to my heart. Because with them, the hole in my heart made by years of loneliness seems smaller, and doesn't hurt so much. For as long as they are safe and happy, I can die peacefully, without any regrets. Naruto explained as a few tears went down his cheek, while images of his most precious people flashed through his head. The old man Sarutobi, Iruka Sensei, Ayame and Teuchi, Kakashi, Jiraiya, even Sasuke and Sakura, Haku, and finally Anko. He still didn't understand, but the very thought of her brought a smile to his lips, the thought of her smile, the real one she kept hidden for years, and that he had finally had a chance to see warmed his heart. He didn't notice it, but while he was talking, his right hand was rubbing the ring she had given him gently. All the while, Gaara, who saw the images himself, and with them a part of his memory, slowly began to understand what Naruto meant. It was still a foreign concept to him, to take care for another. Years of pain built a shell around his heart that was only now beginning to crack, even if only a bit. But the things he saw forced him to look over his own life as well. He sat silently as he mulled over his own memories, remembering all the times that his older siblings tried to be there for him, all the times his sensei Baki, for all his failings, tried to help him, only for him to send them all away with threats of death. He vividly remembered the sadness in Temari's eyes. And the shame in Kenkuro's. Not shame for having him as a brother, as he originally thought, but shame for not being able to help both him and his mother. Perhaps. He whispered, "You are right. Perhaps yours is the better way, you know, my offer still stands." Naruto voiced his thoughts as he extended a hand to the boy. Gaara watched the hand, hesitating for a few moments, before finally grasping it. "Thank you." The world started fading, my friend. Naruto blinked once more as a snowflake fell on his nose. It was a somewhat pleasant sensation, but he sadly enough didn't have the time for such pleasantries. Looking around, he realized that mere moments passed while he conversed with Gaara. And that's when the chakra shell around him finally crumbled and he fell to the ground. 0, he irritatedly counted as his own consciousness faded, while he made one final smile towards his new friend. 2030, Konoha Hospital, White? Oh great, I'm stuck in the hospital, again, were Naruto's first thoughts as he opened his eyes. Of course, being greeted by the sterile ceiling of the hospital was something he was sadly used to in his youth. However, it had been several months since his last visit. A soft snore echoed in the room, coming from right beside him. Now awake, he slowly turned his face to the right, and couldn't help but smile at the sight. Anko, his friend and lover, was soundly asleep, her head resting on her hands, which were in turn resting on his bed, right next to him, while the small snowflake-shaped medallion he had given her was falling over her hands. Giving up on lifting his right arm as Anko was sleeping on it, he slowly raised his left one, only to wince at the pain that move produced. Chakra exhaustion was a bitch. Forcing his arm to move through sheer will, and with a little aid of chakra, he kindly caressed her cheek with the back of his hand, only to smile when she unconsciously nuzzled into it. A wide smile broke on his face at her reaction. He spent the next few minutes in silence, only interrupted by the sounds of the machines he was hooked up to. Using the somewhat limited medical knowledge he possessed, he drew the small amount of chakra he could safely, going for a diagnostic jutsu. The second form of radiance was a gamble, as he hadn't fully trained it yet, so he had to be sure of the damage it caused. Starting from his head, and going down, the only things he detected were drained chakra coils, and the occasional scratch, the remains of far deeper wounds thanks to his insane healing factor. A near-quiet cough brought him from his own expert diagnostic. Naruto raised his head to notice the bespectacled face of Kabuto Yakushi. "So doc, what's the verdict?" he asked with a small grin. Kabuto politely smiled back, all the while looking through the notes he was carrying with him. "You seem to be in good health, well, apart from the chakra exhaustion. Mildly strained, but there is one more thing. Your body is exhausted. So your reaction times will be a bit down for a week," he dully noted. Naruto silently nodded. "When can I leave?" he asked, anxious to get the hell out of the hospital. "Tomorrow morning. My father noted that you should stay until your chakra reserves are stable." "Oh, and you've had quite a few visitors during the 6 hours you were out." "Visitors? Wait, who? Hang on a sec, 6 hours? Only that much from chakra exhaustion?" Naruto asked with clear surprise in his voice. Even with his own ability to regenerate always took him at least 24 hours to recover sufficiently to regain consciousness. The reserve seal, that would have prevented the exhaustion from occurring, was already exhausted when he triggered the second change of his radiance form. Kabuto stood silent in thought with a hand on his chin, contemplating a good enough answer. "Well, according to the reports, after you pulled that stunt of yours, the chakra around you mostly receded back into your body. It probably gave you enough chakra back to quicken up your healing." "That makes sense," the younger boy thought. While his knowledge on healing skills, along with certain aspects of human physiology was limited, he still knew a lot. Oh, and Hokage will be visiting you in a few minutes. You might want to wake Mitarashi-san, he politely added before leaving. Hey Kabuto. Naruto quietly said, while the white-haired teen stopped, giving him his attention. Thanks for patching me up, Kabuto chuckled. You really are dense at times, you know that, Naruto? He asked with mirth. Naruto looked irritated, while Kabuto once more began walking towards the door. I've heard that it was you who cracked the seal on the back of my neck. I pay my debts, besides what are friends for, he added the last part with a wide smile. Naruto could only smile back at the words. For better or worse, he always did make friends easily. It had taken him the better part of an hour, but his senses were finally back to their usual level. The sphere of radiance, which normally encompassed 150 meters in all directions, now covered a measly 5, but Ti was still enough to sense the two hidden Anbu in the corners of the room watching over him. That's Bear and Hawk. Never saw him before. Wonder if he's one of those. If there was one thing Naruto knew, it was that in the world of the shinobi, there was no such thing as paranoia. There was always at least someone, more commonly, a lot of someone's out for your blood. It went with the territory, and given Naruto's years of abuse, he rarely lowered his guard and hated being vulnerable. So, the high-speed friend-or-foe checkup he did on the two was quite normal to him. Just as normal as it was to any veteran ninja. The second interruption came in the form of an opening door. Naruto already knew who was coming, so he turned with a small smile to greet his friends. Hey team, Sakura, he spoke in a rather happy voice. I see you're doing better, Dobe, Sasuke retorted, with an almost equal smile on his face. There was something refreshing about the no longer stuck-up Uchiha. However, the quizzical look both gave him at spotting the sleeping Anko right next to him slightly irritated him. Fine, I told you I'd explain everything. Pick up my coat over there, there should be a scroll in one of the inside pockets. Naruto quietly ordered, while using his free hand to nudge Anko awake. While Sasuke walked over to the nearby chair where most of his clothes were, Sakura was looking at him and Anko with something akin to longing. It took him a few moments to realize why. For all the change, a part of her was still deeply infatuated with the Uchiha, and she wished for the same closeness the two of them shared. He gently nudged Anko once more, however she refused to wake up, so he decided on slightly drastic measures. Forcing his body to move, he turned over to her and kissed her on the lips. Much to his entertainment, it worked like a charm. Nice to see you're up, love, Anko said in a sweet voice, much to the surprise of the others in the room, all the while hugging Naruto. Feeling better? And up for some fun? Just peachy, Naruto replied. However, we have guests right now, he added, pointing to the two. Anko playfully pouted and kissed him on the cheek. Spoilsports. I'll leave you to your talks and come back later. The three remained silent while Anko walked out. Sasuke threw the scroll over to Naruto, who easily caught it and unfurled it, revealing a large assortment of storage seals. Let's see, weapons, supplies no. Explosives, definitely no. Ah, privacy seals, he muttered as he moved over the seals on the scroll, finally stopping on a small array near the end. A drop of blood and a bit of chakra quickly unsealed a small tag. As soon as he deployed it, a thin barrier encompassed the room. Before we start, Hawk, Bear, would you please give us some privacy? While I do trust the Anbu, there is some sensitive information I must speak of. Sasuke and Sakura looked at him as if he were mad, until the genjutsu behind them dropped and the two Anbu vacated the room silently with a small poof. First and foremost, I promised I'd tell you everything, Sasuke, so here goes. Everything I tell you now is an rank secret, not to be revealed without my permission. If you tell anyone without permission, you will be put to death. Sarutobi will see to that. Naruto spoke in a deathly serious voice, one that sent shivers up the spines of his friends. Before I continue, can you do that? Hi, Sasuke quickly replied. Sakura only nodded. Good. Let's start at the beginning. What do you know of the night that Kyuubi attacked, 14 years ago? He started. Only that the Kyuubi was defeated by the Yondaime Hokage, at the cost of his life. Sakura quickly replied. Sasuke remained quiet. All the while, Naruto wasn't facing them, rather, he was looking at the falling snow and electric lights outside. With a short sigh, he continued. Just what they taught in the academy. Well, here's the problem, none of the tailed beasts can be killed. They are in essence immortal creatures made of pure chakra. Naruto started, so in order to defeat it, Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage sealed Kyuubi by the means of a Fuinjutsu and with the aid of the Shinigami. Naruto paused, while dropping his head a bit. In Sasuke's head, gears were already turning. He suddenly remembered a picture of the fourth, and superimposed it on Naruto, removing the whiskers. Holy shit were his only thoughts after it. Sakura was however still blissfully ignorant of said fact, as she only began putting two and two together. However, a being of such power couldn't be sealed into an inanimate object, no, it had to be a living human, or more accurately a newborn child. Minato, being the Hokage, couldn't ask anyone to sacrifice their child. If he wasn't willing to sacrifice his own to bear the seal, and become the container. Naruto stopped once more, eyeing the already shocked looks on their faces. My full, real name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi and son of Minato Namikaze, the Yellow Flash, and Kushina Uzumaki, the Crimson Wind, he finished. It was Sasuke who decided to speak first, easily summing up the thoughts of both others present. Well shit, he so eloquently commented. You, Sakura tried to say, but failed miserably. Taking in a deep breath, she calmed herself down to continue. Come to think of it, you're a carbon copy of the late Yondaime, just remove the whiskers. How come no one ever figured it out? She asked, more or less thinking out loud. Because they didn't want to. Sakura, Sasuke coldly commented, all they saw was the fox, but not the man. Am I right? Completely. It was only recently that things began changing. You don't seem to be overly worried about my condition, Sakura, he asked curiously. It wasn't that he couldn't handle the hatred, if it came. It was the fact that he once had a crush on the pink-haired genin, and he cared for her, both as a teammate and a friend. If anything, he would have been sad. You always were the number one most surprising ninja, Naruto. At this point, if you told me you were the grandson of the Shinigami, I wouldn't be overly surprised. She jokingly stated, for better or worse, you are human, that much I'm certain of. An idiot at times, but still human, she added with a smirk, which Sasuke happily shared. Ha, Naruto mock laughed, all the while pouting. He couldn't help it, even after the mess that was the battle, he needed it. The closeness that his friends offered. The comfort of a simple laugh and joke, the teasing and messing around. He realized that he hadn't talked to Konohamaru and Irika in over a month, and had only visited the Ichirakus 2 weeks ago. He would have to fix that up as soon as he was out. But for now, spending time with his friends would be enough. While on the outside he was pouting, on the inside, a wide smile made its appearance, something that only a certain fox was able to see. Funny stuff aside, how did it all end up? And how are the others? Naruto asked. He fainted after he beat Gaara and Kimimaro, so he really didn't know what happened next. By the time you fainted, most of the troops in the arena began surrendering en masse, apparently scared shitless from that display of power. By the way, was that the stuff you didn't want to talk about? Naruto nodded, waiting for Sasuke to continue. Anyway, by that time, Orochimaru had already fled, leaving behind both the armies. Gaara and his siblings along with their sensei were captured and are being held in the Anbu prison. He stopped for a moment more, considering what else happened. That team from Kiri sent their regards as well. Shin said that they'd stay a few more days and that he'd love to spar with you. crazy bastard," Sasuke finished, muttering the last part, which caused Naruto to laugh. He remembered to disable the privacy seal and turned to Sakura. "What about you, Sakura?" he asked with genuine curiosity. "I did nothing much," she somewhat shyly said, causing Naruto to raise an eyebrow. Since when did Sakura have confidence issues? As far as he could remember, she was the loudest, most self-assured person he knew. Did nothing? Sasuke stared at her incredulously. "I'm pretty sure you earned a Chunin vest just for keeping us alive back there. You were a single medic keeping 7 other people alive," he near shouted, while Sakura blushed from the praise, while Naruto was genuinely surprised to see Sasuke of all people defending her. "That means your studies with Kabuto went well. I'm glad for you," he added in a calm, but caring voice. It was funny though, just how their team dynamics changed. Originally, Sasuke was the team leader, while Naruto fawned over Sakura, who in turn fawned over Sasuke. Sasuke had all the talent, while Sakura was near useless, and Naruto was the wild card of the team. Now, Sasuke had become quite the fighter, with well-developed skills in both ninjutsu and taijutsu, closely followed by his now emerging kenjutsu skills. Sakura had dedicated her time to medical pursuits, quickly learning and putting her intellect and excellent chakra control to good use. And Naruto the dobe? He was long gone, in his place another. A calm and collected individual, who had no problem using his tactical skills or sheer power to defeat his enemies. A person who thought first and acted second. One who could take lives without emotion, while still maintaining his sanity and heart. A true shinobi of the leaf. Well, the whole effect probably wouldn't have been ruined if said shinobi didn't have a ramen addiction, a near obsession with seals, the deeply ingrained desire to pull pranks in addition to having a fox that very much enjoyed messing around with him at times. Oh well, it's not like had any issues with any of those problems. "Thanks," Sakura replied with a beaming smile, proud that she was finally catching up to the guys in her team. "Come on, Kabuto-sensei said that we can't stay long," she quietly spoke, pulling Sasuke out. "Oh, and before I forget, there will be something of a celebration tomorrow night at that bar we visited a while ago. You're invited." Sasuke added as the two of them left. The silence, interrupted only by the rhythmic sounds of his breathing, was suffocating. Naruto hated it, it reminded him far too much of the past days when he was alone. But then again, his mind argued, now he had the time to go over the events of the past days. Time seemingly flew during those days, seeing as he had very little free time at his disposal. Anko visited his thoughts frequently, and he wondered what she was doing now, probably torturing some poor sod. He chuckled at the idea. He was sad thought that she couldn't be here with him. Thinking back to his friends, he reminded himself of their own achievements. Both of his teammates had come a long way from the rookies they were a while ago. They were still little better than Chunin rank, however given a year or two at best they would reach Jounin. His thoughts also went to the several strange presences he identified during his fights. Constant use of the radiance forced his mind to process even more information on a daily basis, and even now he didn't like going through the exact details of a 150-meter sphere around him as it caused him a major headache. Still, he could sense every living thing within that range without any problems. He sensed 7 people for whom he had no idea who they were. All 7 of them suppressing their entire presence, so that his radiance had barely caught them. 5 of them seemed to be on the side of Konoha, while the other 2 were, observing. He'd have to speak with the old man, about both. Just as he was about to fall asleep, he felt a familiar presence creep back into the room, carrying a grin very similar to his own. He smiled again as he closed his eyes. Now his night was complete. 2200 hours undisclosed location. Well, that turned out to be boring. A quiet voice sounded over the chirping of the campfire. The pair of men who were visiting Konoha for a while now, were finally done here, having left as soon as the battle was over. Hush. At least the brat was entertaining, the other one answered in a calm voice. Both of them had their eyes glued to the arena when Naruto fought. And both had to admit that it was indeed a sight. In a few years, he might even give me a challenge, he continued. Challenge you? Now that would be a sight to see, the first one whispered, but he is an intriguing one. The reports claim that a few months ago, he was nothing more than an average genin. Now, he already borders Jounin level, Kage if you count that transformation. I think he knows we followed him, the second one commented. Mentally agreeing with the first one's deductions. But then again, he is their son. He has the potential. Well then, shall we go? Hi my friend, otherwise my wife will kill us, the other retorted, all the while chuckling. And, cookies for those who guessed who the two were, tongues sticking out, same time, streets of Konoha. Another loud sigh was heard as a group of Chunin led by one Shiranui Genma searched the ruins of the northern district for survivors. Out of all the areas, it was only this one that got damaged, as the fighting was at its worst there. Nearly a dozen buildings got completely leveled, and a part of the wall was destroyed. Now, 2 full squads of Anbu watched over the opening. The walls were covered by lights of burning fires and many ninja kept constant patrols over the area, while others stood guard in the internment camp hastily constructed just outside the city walls. The surrendering troops were kept there. Genma sighed yet again, there was so much work to do around them. In a war among ninja, troops don't usually surrender as most battles are to the death, or people are captured. However, Konoha obliterated the enemy forces, leaving about a third of the total troops still alive and imprisoned. Apart from the VIPs, all others were there. In another area of town, a bit away from the streets, the so-called Dango place once more opened, and with the speed gossip travels among ninja, within 5 minutes there were already enough customers to fill the place up. How the owner, who was a civilian, got back from the shelters so fast was anyone's guess, but they sure as hell didn't mind the food and drinks he provided. In one of the booths, a small group consisting of Kakashi, Guy, Kurenai and Asuma were using their break time to relax a bit. Man, this was a long day, Asuma tiredly commented, earning nods from the other three. He picked up his saucer, taking a long sip from it, before placing the cigar back into his mouth. I just handed over the report for my team. 50 takedowns in total, including that Kidamaru guy. What about your teams? How did they go? I haven't got a clue what my team did, they were broken up between Neji's and Naruto's squad. Kurenai explained, tiredly taking some of the sake, the sharp taste helping keep her awake. My youthful team did great. Guy exuberantly stated, even though he was tired. Unlike the others, Guy avoided drinking during nights like this, as he, for all his stamina, had a low level of alcohol tolerance. We capture an enemy kunoichi while taking out around 30 enemy ninja. What about your team, my youthful rival? He finally asked Kakashi, who remained silent throughout the entire talk. My team? Kakashi asked, half aware about where the conversation was going, while the other half of his attention was focused on the small orange book in his hands. Well, Sasuke, Shino and Kiba each took out at least 10 enemies each. The mist team helped them out. He stopped for a moment, waiting for the others to catch the bait. A small bit of anger showed him that he hit the right spot. What about Naruto? Kurenai asked with a slight hit of anger in her voice, disappointed that Kakashi would skip him, and after she heard such interesting gossip. Oh, Naruto, I visited him a little while ago. He's recovering from chakra exhaustion. During the battle, he only took out 2 opponents. Kakashi continued in a flat voice, noting the slightly disappointed looks. Now to drop the bomb, Gaara and Kimimaro, he added. It took a few seconds for the information to settle properly into the minds of his friends, and during that time, he chuckled at their expressions, and wished that he had a camera to immortalize the moment. One can never have too much blackmail material. Tomorrow morning, hospital, Hiruzen Sarutobi once more rubbed his temples. It had been over 24 hours since he last saw a bed, forced to stay awake to coordinate the security, which was a nightmare. The collateral damage to the village was mostly minimal, however, a number of sabotage teams did get through, damaging the walls and a good part of the northern district. And then there was the paperwork. He silently thanked Naruto for telling him the utterly brilliant way to deal with it. Of course, the council was of no aid, since they were still in the shelters, afraid to walk out, the civilian part at least. A satisfied smirk crossed his face, mostly scaring the workers at the hospital. He now had the leverage he needed. A small knock stirred Naruto. Feeling on the bed with his right hand, he smiled at feeling Anko's warm body right next to his own. His eyes opened to see the smiling figure of the Hokage. "Good morning, old man." "You look like shit," Naruto bluntly greeted him, causing the old man to chuckle a bit. "Blunt as ever, Naruto-kun, I see you've had company," he teased with a grin. Naruto blushed a bit, but decided to retort. "Well, at least I'm not too old for company," he added in an equal tone. They both smirked at each other, only to be interrupted by a small laugh from the window. Both turned to spot a certain white-haired pervert. "Well, I'm glad to see that my pupil is already following in my steps," he stated with a thumbs up, all the while motioning towards a sleeping Anko. Now, Naruto blushed even more, and Sarutobi and Jiraiya laughed at the boy's discomfort. A few seconds later, the laughter stopped, as Naruto's face turned serious. Gigi? "I have a question," Naruto stated. The old Hokage nodded in response, telling him to continue. "During the invasion, I sensed 7 figures I couldn't identify at all. 5 of them were helping us, and kept their chakra signature so damn well masked, that all I could see was a faint outline. The other 2 were standing still all the time, as barely visible as the others. Any ideas as to who they were?" Naruto finished his short report, leaving a rather bewildered pair listening to him. It was Jiraiya that spoke first. "You actually detected them," he spoke, his voice not louder than a whisper. "The 2 you speak of are associates of mine, that I've asked to watch over the area during the invasion to make sure none of the Akatsuki interfere. Due to various political reasons they couldn't fight with us, but they could make sure that no one came in unannounced," he explained. "So, they were either missing Nin or from another village," Naruto shortly stated, while Jiraiya nodded. At this time, Sarutobi gave Jiraiya a "we'll talk about this later" look. "The other 5 you detected were some of our own Anbu operatives," Hiruzen half-lied, giving Naruto a look that told him not to ask questions. For all his curiosity, Naruto learned to understand the meaning of the words, "need to know," and kept his mouth shut. Curiosity or not, getting people in trouble or worse wasn't something that he wanted to do. Deciding to turn the subject to something else, he decided to ask about one thing that was on his mind. "What happened to Gaara?" he asked in a somewhat somber voice. He already had several scenarios in his head, and none of them were good. Hiruzen sighed tiredly, aware that the boy shared a bond on some level with Gaara as a fellow Jinchuriki. He also knew that the boy could be trusted with important information, and he would have to do so, considering he had a seat on the council, active or not. The 2 Anbu in the room were no risk, as both were chosen to watch over Naruto by himself. Gaara and his siblings along with their sensei are being held in prison. Sign he has cooperated and given us the information we needed. None of them have been interrogated further. However, the Wind Daimyo will be arriving by in 6 days' time, along with the Fire Daimyo, to proceed with the negotiations. Negotiations? Naruto asked, a puzzled look on his face. Yes. Although it is within both our power and our right to wipe Tsunegakure of the face of the earth, that would create a vacuum of power within the region, allowing many of the more militant organizations the space to spread their influence and grow in power. We lack the numbers to properly secure both wind and fire country, so it would actually be more of a risk to destroy them. Sarutobi explained. Also, our border patrols came across 2 groups of corpses this morning, one identified as the late Kazekage, Sabotage and his entourage, who were dead for a little over 5 months, all killed by liberal doses of snake venom, he continued, causing an annoyed sigh from the blonde, and a small whisper of Orochimaru. The second group was a messenger team, sent a day before the invasion in an attempt to stop the Suna army from attacking, as the council discovered Orochimaru's machinations. Sadly, they were also killed, before they could reach their target. Next to nothing is known about their killer. Jiraiya waited and watched the boys' reaction to the news. Naruto was going through a number of emotions. As Sarutobi spoke, the first being surprise mixed with a sliver of happiness and comfort, immediately followed by utter disgust and cold rage. His normally blue eyes were showing just a tinge of red. Naruto was pissed. His mind quickly connected the pieces and put them into place along with the small bits of memories he had picked up while talking to Gaara. It all made perfect sense now. Hindsight was 20/20. He remembered the last visit of the now-late Kazekage, which was around 5 months ago. Orochimaru killed him then, probably replaced him and his entourage with himself and his own men, walked into Suna and took over the position of Kage there. If it was him, he'd arrange the escorts to receive missions in hard-to-reach areas, such as Rice Country for instance, where they would inexplicably die on the mission, without a body ever being recovered. After that it would be a joke to sabotage the country in more than one way, all the while preparing a full-scale invasion on Konoha with the combined armies of both hidden villages. However, questions still remained. If he truly wanted Suna destroyed, why didn't all of their troops arrive? Reports state that less than a half of Suna's total number was sent, so why such an action? He was quite sure that both others beside him were having the same thoughts. His gut was telling him something that had him worried, that this entire invasion was more of a diversion than anything else. Why did he do it, was all he could ask, all that he could say without letting loose an endless string of obscenities. It doesn't make any sense, however. The reaction his words provoked was one that surprised him. A smile covered both faces. I see you came to the same conclusion as us Gaki. Jiraiya sagely stated, Orochimaru is planning something, and I'm pretty sure that this defeat only sets him back for a while. Rest up a bit Naruto, you're getting a few days off to recover, and I want you in my office, 3 days from now, 7 o'clock in the morning. Sarutobi added before sunshining out with a small smile and wave of his hand. Jiraiya shook his head. Well, kid, the two of you have fun, and don't do anything I wouldn't. I'm off to do some research, he said, gleefully pointing at Anko, while going towards the window. Get going you old pervert. Just make sure you don't get killed by all those women you are spying on. Naruto added in a much brighter tone. Jiraiya laughed it off and jumped out of the window. Things were going to be interesting. An hour later, Naruto and Anko left the hospital, side by side. So, where to now? Anko asked curiously. She overslept, much to her pleasure, and wanted nothing more than to spend the day lazing about with Naruto, and he himself had nothing against the idea. That dango place should be open, no? He quietly replied, snaking a hand around her waist. Anko did the same as both silently walked on. Naruto idly noted that he was a bit higher than Anko now, that, and the fact that he could use a haircut. He slowly turned his head towards Anko, softly whispering in her ear, once we're done there, I'm showing you our new place. Like so many others, Iruka was rubbing his temples while going over High-On report. Since Ichiraku's hadn't opened yet, as Tucci and Iam hadn't yet come back from the shelters, a few sticks of dango and some tea helped him out immensely. He always wondered how the Hokage didn't go insane from working on so much paperwork. Also, said problem caused him to miss the approach of a certain blonde ninja and his girlfriend. Iruka-sensei. Naruto greeted the tired Chunin with a wide smile. Hey Naruto, Iruka greeted back, Anko-san, he added, slightly worried about his favorite former student, but seeing that Anko was not only calm around him, but was actually holding him with love, quickly dispersed any doubts he may have had. I haven't seen you in a while. How are going for you? Never better. I assume you know Ankoheim? Naruto asked, while Anko waved with a somewhat sinister smile. Yes, I've had the, pleasure of meeting Anko-san before, Iruka nervously replied, all the while thinking of the time he decided to take a shortcut through the forest of death and disturbed her beauty sleep as she called it. Anko was grinning all the while he was talking. You were such a sweet guy, Iruka-kun. A real gentleman, just like Loverboy here, Anko commented while putting a kiss on Naruto's cheek. The boy laughed at Iruka's discomfort. Who do you think I learned it from? Naruto asked jokingly, softly nudging Anko in the ribs, trying to at least slightly protect one of his favorite people in Konoha. Sorry for not coming to see you sooner, Iruka-sensei, life's been pretty hectic for me. We'd love it if you would drop by for dinner sometime, right Anko? Naruto asked both of them. Yeah, that would be nice, Iruka said with a soft smile, the one he reserved for his close friends. Hey, I forgot to ask, did those bracers work for you? Naruto suddenly asked, remembering the gift he had prepared for his old sensei. Hi, they were excellent. The barrier helped stop quite a few jutsu during the invasion. Iruka replied with a grin. He doesn't need to know every detail. Thankfully the three shred a table and relaxed a bit, spending over an hour talking about the little things in life. Naruto learned that Iruka's new class seemed to be rather talented, and several changes in the curriculum, inspired by the troubles of the last generation, helped out immensely. Anko retold some of the more entertaining gossip she overheard during the last few days, along with the unofficial leader board that was placed inside the Shinobi bar, for the most lethal ninja during the invasion. Of course, Anko was proudly holding the third place, right behind Kakashi and Guy. Of course, very few people in their right mind would compete with the two, which, this being a world of ninja, meant that a lot of people challenged the records. Strangely enough, even Naruto got a place on the list. Being 11th wasn't much, but the 2 wins he scored apparently got the attention. Later on, the two said their goodbyes to the scarred Chunin, and headed off towards the general area of the clan holds. Having a demonic fox sealed inside you can be awfully convenient at times, Naruto silently mused as he felt his body finally recover. Kabuto was wrong apparently, as the response rate of his muscles was back to normal already, along with his chakra levels, which were slowly but surely refilling. Why thank you, Kyubi jokingly replied to his thoughts. Hey Q, how did you like the show? Naruto mentally asked as he hugged Anko closer. It was entertaining. Reminds me of the days I still had a body. Ah, those were the times, Kyubi wistfully stated, and Naruto could have sworn that a tear fell from his eye. You know, I think it's time you did something more about your mate, the ancient fox sagely advised. Naruto would have quirked an eyebrow, but he had long since learned that it was unwise to show signs of talking to yourself, regardless of how minute. Agreed. Now that I can finally remove her curse seal, I really should. That's not what I had in mind, and you know it, Naruto, Kyubi mock scolded. It's about time you took your relationship a step further. It's not like she would mind, he continued baiting. I'm not going to force her into anything, Kyubi, Naruto angrily replied, insulted by the insinuation. I care for her far too much to even consider hurting her. Good reply, Kit. That is a wise choice to make. Besides, it would save you from a lot of pain, both physical and emotional. However, keep in mind that you don't have much time before your enemies are on the move. Every sliver of strength you can gather will be useful. Kyubi calmed him. Naruto loudly sighed, drawing his companion's attention. Something wrong? She whispered. Naruto quietly shook his head as he guided her onwards. Anko enjoyed the walk very much, and even more the fact that the man she loved was holding her close. It made her feel like a little girl whose Prince Charming came to sweep her off her feet. But heaven help anyone who'd think to say something like that to her. It felt nice to feel normal again, like the horrors Orochimaru put her through never happened. If there was one thing she was sure of, it was that Naruto would heaven and earth to keep her safe and happy, and she'd gladly do the same for him. She was curious as to their destination, however, as she rarely went towards this specific part of the clan districts. The fortified hold of the Aburame clan along with the fenced-off area belonging to the Inuzuka stood at their sides as the young couple fearlessly walked through the forest, left alone by the many beasts that rivaled those in the Forest of Death. Naruto remained quiet for the duration of the trip, choosing to show his emotions and thoughts by contact rather than words, and the warmth she basked in told her everything she needed to know. The village was damaged, many upper-story rooms having broken walls and thin layers of snow in them. Several streets were in an even worse condition, with large craters and fallen debris. The cleaning crews were working overtime to fix everything up. Thankfully, none of the more important buildings were damaged badly, but overall, the village needed a lot of fixing. As they kept walking, the estate came into sight. She was impressed by the ornately carved walls which kept the interior safe, and even more so by the seal-covered gates. It did help that Naruto simply raised his hand and the gates opened before them, revealing the snow-covered, but perfectly maintained gardens that led to the simple, yet beautiful homestead. "Welcome home, Heim," Naruto warmly whispered into her ear, and a single tear came down her cheek. She was home. 3 days later, Hokage Tower, the office of the Hokage. Naruto stood at attention in front of the desk of his leader, who was by the way asleep. Apparently, one of the perks of the job was staying for all-nighters. However, Naruto calmly waited for Sarutobi to awaken. One might ask how Naruto, the hyperactive being that he is, could calmly wait for a long time. The reason was understandable, for today was the day his heritage was announced to the general public, right after a council meeting concerning it. Naruto smirked at the preparations that the three of them did, greatly aided by Saito Yakushi, the head doctor at Konoha Hospital. He was especially proud of the 3 objects he now held on his person, 3 incredibly valuable objects for which many would kill without a second thought, and he was pretty sure that there were those on the council who would want nothing more than to claim his family's wealth and power for themselves. Flashback: 36 hours ago, a loud yawn was heard within the subterranean vault of the Namikaze estate. There were very few things that got Naruto's blood boiling, and something like the seal vaults could easily reach the top of that list. After the better part of 8 hours he managed to unlock 6 of the 7 plates that covered the first of the vaults, the one marked Song of the Wind, and he had just 15 seconds left until it reset itself, and he would have to start over. He had to admit that the work helped him better understand the inner workings of arrays as a whole, not to mention that it gave him several ideas for works of his own. Naruto was slowly guiding a string of his own chakra, cautious to the extreme but still fast enough to finish it on time. 10 seconds, only 5 seals remained to the last one that would open the vault, and only one was the right one. His mind was going into overdrive, analyzing the makeup of said seals, trying to figure out which one was the right one. 5 seconds, 3 seals were eliminated, leaving only 2, but which one? Deciding to give his luck a shot, randomly chose the left one and sent the string of chakra through it, activating the seal. Click. Anko watched him from the sides, enjoying the look of pure bliss on his face, the result of a long time at work. The crystal began unraveling before them, as a pale bluish light encompassed the object which unsealed itself from its core. Floating above the now opened vault was a katana. The elegant sheath of the blade was colored in sapphire blue, with a simple metallic silver lining representing winds on its surface. The handle was equally simple, slightly longer than a normal katana and covered in a bluish cloth, allowing better grip. Around the sheath was a scroll, sealed with a blood seal meant only for those of his blood to open. However, he set it aside, as proud as he was of his achievement. There were still another 2 to open. End flashback, and open he did. It is rather interesting just how much power a large leather-bound tome, a single tri-pronged kunai with a scroll around it and a katana could hold. The katana was his mother's blade, forged over 2 centuries ago, and still as perfectly sharp as the day it was made. The kunai was meant for the legendary Hiraition, the flying thunder god, the most powerful of the 5 jutsu his father, Minato Namikaze, created, and the one that gave him the nickname Yellow Flash. However, the third one was equally, if not even more dangerous. The Codex of Seals was a book of power, mildly put, as it contained every single seal or array that Minato had come across in his life, carefully analyzed, studied and added. In addition, every single seal jutsu that he found was added as well. He knew that people like Danzo would sell their mother just for an hour with the book. And now, all three were perfectly sealed into tattoos on his chest, well concealed by a number of other seal tattoos around them. Not even Jiraiya could trace the seals he used properly. His musings over events past was interrupted by the awakening of the old man. Sarutobi tiredly rubbed his eyes, forcing himself awake. "Ah, Naruto, you're already here." Sarutobi tried to speak with a bit of mirth, and failed miserably. "You should really try and get some sleep, old man, or this job will kill ya," Naruto jokingly added, causing an annoyed sigh from the old man. Sarutobi looked at the clock, and was pleased with himself for waking up just on time for the meeting. Sigh. So much for sleeping a bit more. "Come Naruto, time to give the council reasons to worry," Sarutobi explained with a satisfied smirk on his face. "After that, I'll brief you on your next mission." The two of them walked in silence, only stopping for a moment to check a large folder for all the papers necessary for their plan to work. There were more than a few people who would oppose Naruto's claim of being a Namikaze for a multitude of reasons. Thankfully, Naruto had decided to spend a long while studying the laws of Konoha, which left him with a number of rather entertaining pieces of leverage he could use. On the ground floor of the Hokage Tower, was the circular chamber of the council. The two shinobi that guarded the chamber saluted the Hokage, and much to Naruto's surprise offered a smile to him as well. Inside, the two councils, accompanied by the three elders, not so eagerly awaited their arrival. "Ready Naruto?" Sarutobi asked in a fatherly tone. "As ready as I'll ever be." Naruto replied, a slight hint of nervousness slipping past his guard. As the two of them walked in, Naruto schooled his features into a look of complete apathy, one that gave no clues as to his emotions, or worse, weaknesses. "Why have you called us Sarutobi?" Danzo asked in an irritated voice, that made Naruto want to kill him. He may have messed with the old man, but he respected him, and like for all of his precious people, he would gladly die to protect him. The blunt disrespect of the Hokage angered him. He wasn't the only one apparently, as Sarutobi was equally angry. However, he hid it much better under a smirk which promised trouble, and many of the clan heads were annoyed or outright angry with him. "Be quiet Danzo," he spoke in a cold voice, "lest I remind you why I am the Hokage. Can we please get to the subject of this meeting, Hokage-sama? We are all tired and edgy." Hayashi, ever the mediator, asked in an even tone, trying to diffuse the situation. Mostly so he could deal with his growing headache. The others murmured in approval, but some of the civilian council glared at Naruto, who didn't spare them as much as a look. His appearance here brought up a number of questions in the minds of several of the clan heads, most notably Hayashi and Shikaku. "Right. I called you all here today to make an important announcement concerning Naruto Uzumaki," he calmly stated, causing mixed reactions from the crowd. Some called for his death, others were uninterested, and then there was Danzo, with his plans to make weapons out of people. Both wisely tuned them out. "Despite what you were told 14 years ago, the son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki didn't die." Sarutobi started, causing quite a few surprised looks, and a few of understanding. "After repeated blood tests and gathering the required paperwork, I can safely announce that Naruto Uzumaki is in fact Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, and as such the heir of the Namikaze and Uzumaki names and families along with all of their legacies," he explained, all the while channeling a small amount of chakra to his ears to prepare for the oncoming shouts. "What?" screamed near a half of the civilians along with Danzo. Hamura and Koharu, while not overly fond of the young blonde, had nothing against him, and they both knew that they owed more than they cared to admit to the young man in front of them. Unlike the civilian part of the council, the shinobi were perfectly aware of Naruto's role in the battle less than a week ago, and the all-out surrender caused by his actions, which in turn saved countless lives. The least they could do was act civil. Hayashi Hyuga was surprised, but his features would never show such a commoner emotion. Choza Akimichi and Inoichi Yamanaka were paying up their bet to Shikaku Nara, as the lazy genius apparently guessed it right. Sum Inuzuka was very much surprised. Shibi Aburame retained his logical face, although inside he was just as surprised. It's a lie. There's no way that the demon brat can be the son of our beloved Yondaime, shouted one of the civilians. A fat slob by the name of Itari Kanaga Sarutobi was about to call the ANBU to take the man away, but he was interrupted by a raised hand from Naruto and a look that clearly told him to let him handle things his way. For a person who claims to love and respect my father so much, you are awfully distrusting of his skills as a seal master, Naruto calmly stated. In your hypocrisy, do you claim to know the Reaper Death Seal better than he did? Or that you understand the works of the Shinigami, he continued in a cold tone, or is it simply the fact that you couldn't care less and want the power and wealth of Minato Namikaze for yourself regardless of the consequences such an act would have for this village and its people? Minato Namikaze asked for one thing alone in return for sacrificing 2 lives, his own and mine. He asked that I be given a normal life. Apparently, it was too much to ask for some, he finished in a tone that left no doubts to his loathing of the man, and to make things worse, no one had any arguments to claim that he wasn't right. Itari was forced to shut up. Sarutobi kept an even face, but inwardly he smirked at the short speech. His father had once done something similar. Hidden in one of the corners, Jiraiya was doing his best to control his laughter. A few of the clan heads looked approvingly. This was an unspoken test, and they agreed that he passed with flying colors. According to the laws of Konohagakure, I present you the copies of a blood type and DNA matched to Minato Namikaze, along with the marriage certificate for Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki and my own birth certificate. In accordance with the laws, this is sufficient evidence to prove that I am the son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, and as such the legal heir to the Uzumaki Namikaze name and property. Naruto finished the rehearsed speech, already annoyed by the glares some sent at him, and the fake apologetic looks from some of the others. The only ones he did tolerate were those that remained impassive, such as the ninja and a few of the civilians who treated him normally for a while now. It was time for the final blow to their egos. I suggest we invoke the sea. Danzo started, only to be frozen by a blast of killing intent. No, Naruto stated in a deathly voice, giving a full display of his strength, one that left no room for argument. He had no intent to allow the CRA, the Clan Restoration Act, which would force him to marry multiple women for the sole purpose of building up a clan. The Namikaze were never a clan, and the Uzumaki were a royal family. He had very little interest in building one. I will not accept the Clan Restoration Act, he continued in a calmer voice. And what makes you think that you have any choice in the matter? One of the civilian councilmen spoke. At this point, Hayashi, Inoichi and Shikaku were listening carefully for Naruto's reply, curious to see how the boy would handle it. The satisfied smirk that crossed his lips had them slightly concerned. The law, Naruto shortly stated, you don't have any legal grounds to invoke the CRA on me. The Namikaze were a normal family, not a clan, and the Uzumaki were a royal family. I also lack any discernible bloodline which would give you the right of forcing it upon me, he explained, much to the satisfaction of the Hokage. Hiruzen was feeling greatly proud of the boy, as he knew that he couldn't have stated it better himself. Also, you seem to forget another rather interesting piece of law which concerns former Hokages, Naruto added with a smirk, which caused a worried frown on more than one face. The 3 that watched him had come to similar decisions concerning to boy's political skills. As the last living relative of the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, I inherit a seat on the Shinobi Council. Complete and utter silence descended upon the chamber. Naruto could hear the cacophonous laughter of Kyubi inside his head, and he had to use every single bit of his willpower not to join him at the sight of the blanched faces of the councilmen, especially those that spent a good deal of their time trying to get him killed. However, I can't claim my council seat yet, because of the simple reason that I have very little time to dedicate to the job between the missions and my studies right now. As such, I am entrusting my position and vote to Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage, he finished curtly. Throughout the entire discussion, his facial expression never changed, making him scarily reminiscent of his late father, and at times of Hayashi Hyuga. His eyes displayed all the emotion he wished to show, and looking at them was mostly unpleasant. He had achieved what he wanted, and he knew that the civilian council, along with a few others, now had no more influence over him. Now that that matter is settled, I have 2 more announcements to make, Sarutobi started, once more forcing silence in the chamber. First, Jiraiya the Toad Sage has chosen to take Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze as his apprentice. He calmly stated, and this time there were no surprised faces among the shinobi, the only ones being annoyed still were several civilians, mostly those who didn't want to accept the reality of the situation. And second, I will soon be stepping down from my position as Hokage. As such, I have chosen my successor to be Senju Tsunade. Jiraiya and Naruto will be dispatched to locate her and call her back. Sarutobi explained to the now tired council. The looks of shock and surprise at the new balance of power was something that he would treasure for years to come. And the fact that Danzo gave a resigned sigh to his choice of a new Hokage was pleasant, but worrying. Danzo rarely gave up. Still, there was little time for such thoughts now, he mused as the 2 of them walked towards the office. As soon as they left the chamber, Naruto's face instantly changed to his normal calm, if somewhat happy expression. "Man, that was hard," he near whispered. "I think I pulled a facial muscle in there," he added, causing a light chuckle from the lips of the old man. "That's politics for you, Naruto. Remember, you're the one who wanted to be Hokage," Hiruzen teased the boy, only to hear light grumbling, which caused him to laugh loudly, along with bringing snickers from the passing guards. Inside the office, they were greeted by 2 figures, Anko and Jiraiya. Naruto knew that he was going with Jiraiya, but why did he call Anko in? "Hey Gaki," Jiraiya greeted, while Anko smiled mischievously. "I've decided to also send Anko along with the 2 of you on the mission," Sarutobi explained to a surprised Naruto, who only smiled in response and went to kiss Anko, throwing all caution to the wind. "This mission will be fun," both of them thought. "Alright, already," Sarutobi spoke, trying to be louder than Jiraiya's girlish giggles and note-writing. "You are to leave tomorrow morning. Jiraiya knows how to track down Tsunade," he explained before giving up on making the 3 of them act seriously and went for his own stash of sake. If there ever was a time he needed it, it was now. 7 o'clock, Konoha's North Gate. One would assume that a seemingly empty area is just that, empty. No tracks in the fallen snow, not a hint of presence, or a chakra signature. However, such a person wouldn't last long, as within seconds 3 figures revealed themselves. All 3 wore white cloaks over their clothes, rendering them near invisible in the shine of the fallen snow and the falling snowflakes. "Ready?" The first figure, a large man, asked. "Hi," the 2 others replied. Naruto was excited by the prospect of a new mission, and one that was actually important. He had given up on his usual red coat, exchanging it for a newly bought white one which he covered with seals on the interior, strengthening it to the level of normal combat armor used by the Anbu. The white coat covered his favorite brown pants and shirt, being buttoned up from waist up, carefully concealing a utility belt along with a pair of bracers on the arms. Anko had to forego her favorite fishnet outfit for something warmer. Chakra tricks or not, she really didn't have the luxury of light clothing anymore. A pair of black pants and a thick shirt covered by her usual trench coat and the same white cloak over. And then there was Jiraiya, who against all common sense went in the same clothes, only covered with a white cloak. Muttering something about survival training. "Where are we going?" Naruto asked as the 3 used the trees to move towards north. Jiraiya was hesitant to speak apparently, and that had him worried. North, he answered, to the remains of the Whirlpool Kingdom. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. Guys, make sure to help the author by visiting the link in the description. This is Fox Sage, and I'm signing off.